This guy is a hulking giant. Compared to him, everyone else looks like pathetic little dwarfs. And he's not just big, he's absurdly strong. When he comes across a massive ogre that even bullets can't penetrate, he shocks everyone by casually obliterating it with just a couple of blows. He doesn't even break a sweat. Then, when he ends up in the middle of a lake full of alligators, instead of becoming their meal, he wipes them out single-handedly because his skin is stronger than steel. He drags their bodies ashore and roasts the gators whole. Then he eats them right there, biting off one huge chunk after another. Everyone around him is in shock and can't help but wonder who he really is. The thing is, barbarian blood runs through his veins. And here's how he ended up among humans many years ago. In the land of barbarians, the strongest warrior fights against a group of hostile tribesmen. These barbarians are born fighters raised as lethal warriors who gladly die in battle for honor. The warrior calls out to his wife, activate a spell while he buys her time. Watching from a distance, Aiden considers his father to be the bravest warrior of them all. Though his father was betrayed by his own tribe, he continues to fight to protect his family and his dignity. As the man fights fearlessly, his mother tries her best to complete the incantation. She eventually succeeds in activating the magic, causing a strong beam of light to emerge. She pushes Aiden toward the light, wanting him to go anywhere in the land of stars, because any place is better than this bloody battlefield. With tears in her eyes, she bids farewell to her son. Even though Aiden feels scared, his father reminds him to become strong, as that is the only way he will be able to protect what belongs to him. Our protagonist cries hopelessly, but still decides to follow that advice. Even while facing death, his father feels neither regret nor fear. Carrying only the pride of a true barbarian, the scene shifts to show a modern city. There, a group of bullies gathers around a boy who looks quite wealthy. They demand he hand over all of his possessions. That ritual-looking student is actually Jae Kim, at GNL High School. He requests that they stop before things get serious. But the leader of the bullies mocks him for the warning. Gintai tries to tell them that his friend is on his way. The leader sarcastically dismisses this friend, asking if he is the Hulk or some kind of monster. Before the bully can hit Gintai, someone breaks the wall beside him and lands a powerful blow on the leader. The bullies stand stunned at the sight of the crumbling masonry. Suddenly, our boy emerges from the broken wall. This guy's name is now Chelu Kang, and he is also senior at GNL High School. The panicked bullies demand to know his identity. Chelu reveals that he is Gintai's friend, though internally he is the only one who knows he is actually a barbarian. After taking care of the bullies, our hero and his friend leave the area. Gintai mentions how impressive it was to see him smash a wall with his bare fist, even doubting if Chaolu is human. Our protagonist flinches and insists that he is indeed a human. Internally, he reflects that it has been a decade since he arrived on Earth. Jinta still seems suspicious, which makes Chelu wonder if he still gives off barbarian vibes. Ignoring his friend's statements, he decides to head home. Once there, our boy finishes 3 bowls of rice, yet his old man thinks he is eating too little. While starting his 6th bowl, Cholu explains he has lost his appetite lately. He expresses concern for his grandfather, who isn't eating at all. The old man explains that he can't properly digest food anymore and feels full just by watching his grandson eat. Our hero feels grateful for this elder. Back when he first appeared on Earth, his gramps took him in without expecting anything in exchange. In the present, the old man reveals that a director Park called him earlier. He asks if Chelu told the director that he wants to become a boxer. Our boy instantly clarifies that he does not want to become an athlete. This leaves the old man in shock, since he doesn't understand the reasoning. As far as the old man remembers, Chaoldu has been winning awards in every sport. On the contrary, our protagonist internally points out that humans and barbarians are totally different species. He believes that participating in human sports would be a violation of fair play and sportsmanship. Even though he doesn't want to disappoint his grandfather, he knows that a barbarian can only truly be a warrior. Recalling his last moment with his father, Chelu decides not to play sports made for humans because he desires a bloody fight against someone who matches his actual strength. The main problem is that Earth is simply too peaceful. Soon, however, the old man sees shocking news on the TV. In Cheongju, many people have lost their lives, and the government has decided to investigate the matter thoroughly. Gramps reveals that around 120 people have died. According to the news, the incident is related to some kind of monster. Newly released footage shows an unidentified creature spotted in the area. Upon seeing the creature, Chelu starts to tremble. The old man gets worried, but our hero decides it is time to leave. Later, he and Gintai head for Cheongju. They travel in a new car belonging to Jintai's father. While driving, Gintai reminds his friend that he needs to get himself a license. After thanking him, Chelu reflects on the creature from the footage, recognizing it from the land of barbarians. He believes this incident must be related to the planet where he used to live. Unexpectedly, their car stops at the entrance of the Yangamam tunnel. A crowd is gathered, indicating that something serious is happening. Gint notices soldiers among the people, and our boy realizes this must be the disaster area. Seeing his strong physique, a stranger approaches and asks who he works for. These people are from Nuong Development Inc. One of the men hands Chill to a business card and requests that he join their group. Holding the card, our protagonist wonders if this is a guild for warriors. The stranger laughs at the question and says their organization is colonizing a planet, so they are looking for workers, not warriors. After a moment, Chelu tears the business card apart as he considers it an insult for a warrior to become a mere worker. The man from the company becomes furious, unable to tolerate the refusal. He mocks Cholu for spouting nonsense about warriors. Tension escalates as both of them prepare to fight. Their skirmish is interrupted when something unexpected happens. A dark void appears at the entrance of the tunnel. People prepare for an arrival while Gintai stands in shock, confused by the unfolding events. Suddenly, a system window appears in front of a massive black sphere, notifying everyone about the commencement of the Doomsday exam. Another window reveals that Doomsday is coming to Earth. A third panel explains that the planet of refuge, Nova, offers salvation to the people of Earth. The final panel instructs them to flee to Nova through the portal. A huge beam of light appears in the middle of a forest. Ginte and Kyolu emerge from that light and find themselves surrounded by trees. Jinta screams in panic, failing to understand how they were teleported to the middle of nowhere. He blames our protagonist for making him come along and worries about his precious car. Suddenly, a system window appears, telling them to obtain 1 goblin coin to see the reward for class advancement to novice. While Ginte struggles to process this, our hero tells him to pay attention. They are suddenly swarmed by a group of goblins. Gint freezes in shock, not expecting the system to force them to kill these creatures. Before he can finish speaking, our boy dashes forward at full speed. He has been waiting for this moment his whole life. With a smirk, Chelu decides to test his strength and lands a heavy blow on a goblin. The creature flies backward, destroying everything in its path. Finally, our hero feels a massive adrenaline rush that drives him wild. His barbarian instincts are screaming. By eliminating the remaining goblins with his bare fists, Chelu feels excited to finally face Doomsday. Gentai, stunned to see how easily Chiodu defeats the goblins. As soon as the last creature falls, it digitally disperses into the air to reveal a golden coin. The system panel explains that this is a goblin coin, the basic currency used in Nova, though this specific version is a non-transferable variant exclusive to the Doomsday exam. As soon as the coin touches our hero's palm, a system window pops up. It indicates that he is now qualified to become a citizen of Nova, and advises him to step through the portal to enter the new world. From behind, Ginte struggles to understand the implications. Our protagonist looks around and points toward a dark void, identifying it as the portal. Later, Genta looks to be in rough shape, his face and head swollen from the previous scuffle. Clutching a stick, he yells at Cholu, demanding to know why he was thrown into a crowd of monsters. He is reminded by our boy that since the coins are non-transferable, Jinte must earn them himself to progress. Despite the explanation, Jinte continues to protest. In the middle of his argument, a stray goblin charges toward him with its weapon raised. Ginta panics, having assumed they were all dead. Just in time, Chu steps in and slams a goblin into the ground. He reminds his friend once more that true strength only comes from fighting. Nevertheless, our hero takes responsibility for Ginte's safety, acknowledging that his friend is only in this position because of him. The battered Gintai thanks him, noting that he has at least finished the quest. Elsewhere, 2 soldiers use binoculars to locate their missing duffel bag. The supplies were stolen by goblins, and the duo decides to eliminate the thieves immediately. Before they can act, Chelu finds the bag first. He secures the useful supplies that will ensure their survival. Seeing a figure near their gear, the soldiers point their guns at him, mistaking the survivors for monsters. Fortunately, they realize their mistake before opening fire. Later, the 4 of them cook food together. The soldiers apologize for the confusion, a gesture which Chelu casually shrugs off. One soldier is stunned to see the pair totally unarmed in such a dangerous zone. Gentai explains that they arrived by accident without knowing the nature of this place. He asks curiously if the military is involved and if the information on the system windows is true. A soldier nods, revealing that the government is preparing for the end of life on Earth. He explains that Nova is a planet currently stuck in a prehistoric Stone Age, requiring teams to rebuild civilization from scratch. Various companies and groups are already active, competing behind the scenes to gain an advantage in this new era. Our protagonist asks if Nova is as infested with monsters as this testing ground. The soldier clarifies that this area is merely a trial. Nova is the real challenge. He emphasizes the importance of training here, as the actual planet will be far more difficult. Unexpectedly, the soldier decides to give them the duffel bag, providing enough food and weapons for both of them. While Ginte offers his heartfelt thanks, the news of Nova's difficulty only serves to excite our hero. In the middle of the night, Cholu heads out to hunt again, bringing a confused Gintai along. Ginte cannot understand the need for more combat since they have already passed the test. However, Choluta explains that they cannot afford to sit back after hearing the soldiers' warnings. He believes they must become significantly stronger. They soon spot a tower made of wooden sticks where a figure emits a strange aura. The creature looks like a goblin, but appears much more formidable. Jintei points out the physical differences from the ones they faced earlier, but our protagonist is simply excited to face the challenge. He charges forward, leaving Jintei behind. The goblins guarding the base of the tower notice his approach, but before they can react, our boy knocks them out. The elite goblin at top tower spots Shu climbing up to meet it. Our hero is fired up to eliminate the target, but the creature activates a spell, striking its staff with powerful lightning. Caught off guard by the use of magic, Chelu is struck directly by the bolt. Jintei yells in panic, while the goblin smirks in satisfaction. To its surprise, Chelu does not give up. Even while scorched by the blast, his excitement remains high. The goblin strikes him with lightning again. Our protagonist does not flinch. Even as the electricity lingers along his spine, he endures the pain. He reveals that he is more than just a barbarian. He is the son of a great sorceress. Finally reaching the top, he emits powerful lightning and yells that what doesn't kill him makes him stronger. In an instant, the entire tower is destroyed by his power. Shu falls to the ground along with the debris. Lying there fully burned, he smirks at having faced death, grateful for the magic resistance inherited from his mother. Alongside more coins, he receives a glowing golden orb identified by the system as the Orb of Magic. This non-transferable item permanently increases the user's magical ability and requires 10 coins to activate. Our hero wonders if he has truly gained the powers of a sorcerer. As the orb merges with him, his wounds heal instantly. He feels a surge of strength that leaves him shocked. Jint approaches, amazed that his friend is still alive after the lightning strikes. He begins to doubt if Kielu is even human. The warrior only mutters his own name in a dazes, making Gintai Wanauri, but the silence is short-lived. Chelu is suddenly ready for even more hunting. He plans to find their next spot, to track down more sorcerer goblins and their orbs. Jinta panics, yelling for him to stop. The next morning, Gintai exits his tent to find that our boy has been hunting all night. Chu proudly displays a collection of orbs for magic, strength, and sensation. He is eager to test his new power, feeling exponentially stronger than he did a day ago. Suddenly, a system panel appears to announce that 24 hours have passed. Boss monsters will now begin appearing in the area. These are creatures that new arrivals are not expected to defeat, and the system instructs everyone to escape immediately. Jint panics and insists on using the portal to flee, but our protagonist refuses. He feels tempted by the prospect of fighting tougher opponents. Soon a junior ogre emerges, the boss monster of the beginner exam. The soldiers attempt to shoot the hand holding its massive club, but the bullets have no effect. As the ogre prepares to smash them, our hero intervenes and destroys the club completely. Standing before the beast, Shoolu is thrilled to finally fight someone larger than himself. He demands that everyone clear the area so he can take the ogre down alone. With full determination, Shoolu lands a powerful blow on the ogre. Yet to his surprise, the beast doesn't feel a thing. Our hero feels as though he is punching through solid steel rather than skin. Suddenly, the boss frees himself from the young man's grip and sends him recoiling back with great force. Genti, observing the lopsided fight the sidelines, realizes that the ogre is far stronger than our boy. One of the two soldiers from earlier believes it is already impressive that Shu has lasted this long, as boss monsters are generally not meant to be taken down. He points out that a team needs a tank to even stand a chance against a foe. Lying on the ground, the protagonist never expected the ogre to be so powerful that he would take this much damage from a single hit. He admits the creature is stronger than him. Right then, the boss tries to land a heavy blow on our hero, but fortunately he dodges. In that moment, decides not to face the monster head-on. Suddenly, the ogre starts hitting, repeatedly dodging every attack. Our protagonist notes that the strikes are quite simple and easy to predict. Therefore, he immediately slides and grabs the creature's arm to use its own strength and weight against it. With determination, our boy carries the beast by the arm and slams him hard onto the ground. He then immediately jumps and lands a punch right on the monster's mouth. The ogre lies on the ground with broken teeth and a bleeding maw. The battle isn't over yet, as Chelu repeatedly lands crazed punches on his opponent. The soldiers are stunned to see him successfully defeating the boss monster with his bare hands. Chelu stands tall, confidently declaring he has defeated a monster stronger than himself. Now he looks forward to encountering more boss monsters or any other strong opponents. As soon as the defeated ogre digitally disperses into the air, a black orb materializes. Our hero wonders about its power while a new system panel appears. Seeing the notification, he feels a bit surprised. Later, in front of the portal, the two soldiers thank our hero for saving them. but Chelu shrugs it off by saying he just wanted to fight the ogre. One soldier suggests that they buy as much as possible from the shed before heading to Nova. He explains that they can only bring items to Nova that are purchased from the shed. Surprisingly, there is a talking goblin inside the shop. Meanwhile, the two soldiers leave as they need to report back. Gent acts greedy, wants to know what our boy has decided to do with the coins they have earned. The decision is easy for the protagonist. Later, both of them spend all of their coins in exchange for crew weapons from the shed. Gint feels excited to start the game with this gear. Suddenly, a system window notifies them that they have met all the requirements to enter Nova, and the portal appears. Regarding their departure to another planet, Gintai asks our hero if he is feeling nervous. Chelu feels the opposite, experiencing intense excitement for what they are about to encounter. A huge beam of light emerges and soon, both of them are transported to Nova. Unexpectedly, Nova has 2 moons. This planet looks similar to Earth, but feels slightly different. Looking down at the lights, Ginty points out that others have already settled and suggests heading over there. However, our protagonist mentions that they have a problem. Jinta doesn't understand what he means until Cholu's stomach growls. Our hero is feeling super hungry, and Ginte feels on edge because he knows his friend turns into a beast when starving. The issue remains that it will take them at least half a day to reach the campsite. Out of nowhere, a beautiful lady appears behind and asks if they need any help. Stunned by her beauty, Ginte asks if they can find food nearby, explaining they arrived empty-handed. The lady can clearly see they are carrying something on their backs. But when Ginte doesn't catch her meaning, she shrugs it off and decides to help them out. She reveals she knows a good place to find food, so both of them start following her. After walking for some minutes, the woman points ahead to reveal the location. She claims she found this fishing spot out of luck. Gentai immediately decides to whip up a fishing pole with items he bought from the shed, assuring Chaolu that he is better at crafting than him. The lady decides to leave to grab some bait she left further ahead. She feels grateful to have met such a nice person, while our boy goes crazy from starvation. As soon as Ginte finishes making the fishing pole, the system awards him the production skill. He feels proud and decides to set the bait. However, Chelu's patience has reached its limit. Our hero jumps into the water to catch the fish with his bare hands. Ginte is super annoyed that his friend cannot control his hunger. Just then, a group of people approach. As it turns out, the lady from before has gathered them there. Ginte believes those guys are her friends, but the lady mocks him for the assumption. She states that in Nova, walking around like that is asking to be robbed by people like them. 2 men grab Ginte, who finally realizes she tricked them. The lady simply calls it the survival of the fittest, and straightforwardly asks him to hand over all their gear. Ginte warns her that she will regret it if they harm him. One of the men immediately slaps his face and wonders where the other guy went. Someone else in the group laughs, thinking our hero has run away after seeing them coming. Right then, our boy emerges from the water along with 2 terrifying crocodiles. He is busy with the reptiles while everyone else turns to watch him being eaten. Chelu reflects that the skill he received is incredible. Back when he obtained the black orb, the system revealed he could acquire one of the special abilities of the ogre. Now in the present, he hasn't suffered a single scratch, even with crocodiles chewing on him. Our protagonist has obtained the ogre's skin, which is tougher than steel. After defeating the crocodiles, he comes out of the water. Surprisingly, upon seeing the group of thugs, our boy is only concerned that the food he caught is only enough for 2 people. Ginty immediately shouts that these people have tricked them. Still, our hero is only thinking about eating the crocodile and asks if there is a problem. His friend yells and nods, explaining that these people are here to take their stuff and have already slapped him. 2 of the thugs come forward to knock the protagonist down, but Cholu immediately sends one flying with a single punch. Our hero furiously announces that he doesn't fix problems. He gets rid of them. After taking care of the thugs, our hero comes to know that are actually thugs from the Young Gu clan who target beginners like them. The thugs leader notes that Shiolu is pretty young, but he wonders which clan our protagonist is from. Our boy then asks the leader if he is the boss, but the leader reveals that their boss is Yan, who is the strongest man in the area. Furthermore, a lady states that our protagonist is not totally screwed, as the boss got super strong stealing ability stones. While eating the cooked crocodile, Chelu believes that their boss is super problematic as well. Seeing him munching that crocodile with his bare teeth, the thugs feel sick. Throwing a piece of crocodile towards them, our hero demands them to lead the way to Yongu. Later, they reach the Yongu clan base. Inside, our protagonist has even beaten the higher-ups with one punch, which makes every member feel inferior. Now, Chelu has completely digested the crocodile, which was even hard to chew. The members want to know who this guy is, but they only know that he has come with those youngsters. They mock Jongdu, the leader of the thugs group, earlier for bringing the enemy to the base. Hearing that, Jongdu thinks that they are considering him as someone who has betrayed them. Now, even if the boss wins, he is still screwed. Right then, our hero yells for their leader to come out and fight him like a man. Hearing his voice, Younggu finally comes out. Seeing his physique, Jintae's jaw drops in fear because the boss looks even bigger than Shu. Younggu furiously asks who is messing with his kids. Both of them stand face to face. Young points out that our protagonist is too young to be talking in that tone. Still, our boy mocks him as he points out that the boss is proud of being old and picking on the weak. But to his surprise, the boss lands a powerful punch right into his face. Younggu asks if his mother didn't teach him to pay respect to his elders. Our hero answers after grabbing his fist that she actually did. Plus, she also told him to become the strongest man. The boss laughs as our protagonist has managed to block his punch, and he finds him funny. He has now become super interested in Chelu, so he tells him to join him if he wins. Our hero agrees and then decides to the group of thugs if he wins. The group's leader doesn't understand where it is coming from. With that, the fight between the two continues as our boy successfully lands a blow on the boss, making him slam on the ground. The boss, surprisingly, doesn't receive any damage and remarks that today's kids are pretty much impatient. From a distance, Gintae is stunned to see that the punch from our hero didn't work at all. Zhongdu remarks that it won't work because their boss already has 12 ability stones and more than half of them are strength stones. Plus, he got Ogre's skin. However, in the battle, Yonggu is facing some kind of difficulties because the punches from our protagonist are still getting through. Chelu remarks that Yonggu is the toughest opponent he has met till now. The old man skids back, and even though he is breathing heavily, he tells our boy that he is just tickling him. But deep down, he is feeling embarrassed. Then he strictly goes towards our protagonist to land a punch, which then gets intercepted by another punch. Surprisingly, the old man feels a sharp pain as his nails and fingers break down. A system notification pops up stating that Ogre's skin has been activated after being hit. Hence, the skin of our hero has now become tougher than steel. Next, he grabs the old man by the neck and advises him to stay still or he will cut his own tongue. When his people decide to interfere in the fight, Zhongdu comes in with his group as he decides to not let anyone interfere in their fight. One of the people gets furious as he believes that Zhongdu is betraying his own clan. But Zhongdu states that his loyalty lies with the strongest. Although deep down, he knows this is for the best, as those people have already taken him as a traitor. Soon after, Yonggu is sent flying by our protagonist. Everyone gets stunned, seeing him defeated so badly. Yonggu slams on the ground pretty hard, and his people grow worried. Lying on the ground trembling, he doesn't want Cholu to come and finish him. Our hero still throws a punch at him, but stops his punch right before his face. Our boy comments that he thought he had met someone tough for a change, but now he believes it's pathetic that a boss is begging for his life. Later, the group of our hero grabs everything which belongs to the Younggu clan. As they are about to leave, Younggu, while kneeling, asks him from which clan he belongs to. Repeating the word clan, our protagonist reveals he is just a high school senior. Later, somewhere else, the unformed group of Chu sets up a tent. Meanwhile, Zhongdu thanks him for taking them in. Our hero now demands them to be useful. After that, he reflects that barbarians become stronger through battle. And now he has also got his first underlings. Still, he considers himself weak, because at that moment he hesitated before finishing Yonggu. His father would have been disappointed if he saw him like Shalu gets frustrated as he regrets not going for his head. Then he turns to Jintae, but then he addresses him as sub-leader and asks if he has given them orders. Jintae feels amazed as he has been addressed as sub-leader. With a big smile, he nods as he has told them to set up the tents. With that, our hero resolves to get going. When Jintae questions him, our boy reveals with a smirk that they're going to their next destination. Jintae questions what thing is in that direction. With a confident face, our protagonist reveals that his instincts are telling him that they will become stronger once they go over there. Ahead, there is a huge pyramid which is giving off negative energy, and Chelu wants to head over there. According to the system, that is actually the Holy Pyramid. The next morning, the newly joined members stand in line in front of Chelu. He praises them for setting up the tents before explaining his plan to cross the river. He orders the group to stay behind to guard the camp. Internally, Yongdu reflects that Cholu is attempting to conquer a new territory that no one else has dared to approach. When Zhongdu asks when they will return, our protagonist admits he has not selected a specific time, though he plans to come back when it is time to return to Earth. Zhongdu mentions that the next portal opens 4 days from now. The portal operates on a 5-day cycle. And since it opened yesterday, 14. 1 day on Earth equals 5 days at Nova. Jintae sigh in relief upon learning the portals regularly, as he previously feared they would be stuck on this planet forever. Consequently, our hero decides to return within 3 days. He also intends to bring his father with him, as he cannot leave the old man alone on an Earth that is nearing its end. Finding the information useful, Chelu asks for Yongdu's name. Yongdu reveals it, immediately prompting our boy to designate him as number 1. Even when Yongdu protests, Chu decides to refer to everyone as numbers 1 through 5. Lady in the group protests, stating they have actual names. But our hero shuts her up with a furious look until she gives up. The members bow as Chelu leaves alongside Jintei. Later, the two of them cross the river using a raft Gintai created. Through this construction, Gintai gains experience points in production. However, Chelu feels frustrated by the slow pace of the paddling. Feeling the movement is too sluggish, he jumps directly into the river. Genti is left behind on the craft, yelling that he worked hard to build it. But our protagonist begins swimming while pulling the raft, along with a rope. Gent eventually admits they are moving much faster and recognizes how quickly Chiu adapts. Remembering his own past weakness, Jinta decides to stop running away and step up now that Chelu has appointed him sub-leader. Both men finally reach the foot of the pyramid. From this proximity, the structure appears massive. According to the system, this is the Holy Pyramid. It instructs the user to activate the sanctuary to receive rewards, noting that the total cost for activation is 2,000 coins. Jintei reads the instructions carefully, and Xiao decides to prioritize collecting the necessary currency. Unexpectedly, Ginti suggests they collect the coins separately. He states that even with the world ending, he has yet to accomplish anything on his own, and wants to try working without help. Later that stays, busy defeating Ostracosaurus monsters, enjoying the thrill of the fight. When another beast emerges from behind, our boy defeats it with ease. Having slain many of them, he gathers all the coins and orbs he requires. One defeated Ostracosaurus drops a rare pink orb. The system identifies it as a skill stone for pitch, an object thrown with magical power to grant it greater strength and speed. By absorbing the stone, our hero learns the new skill and grows stronger. He then begins to wonder how Ginti is faring. As night arrives on the other side of the woods, Jint lures an Ostracosaurus toward him. As the beast charges, Ginti sprints ahead toward a rope he attached to a tree. He hopes the trap works, and as the monster hits the line, Ginti seizes the chance to stab a knife directly into its head. He finally defeats the creature on his own. While resting, he assumes our protagonist has already taken down many such monsters. The weapon Gentai used is a bone knife he crafted from crocodile teeth. He sits up to reflect on his personal hunting style, but his thoughts are interrupted when a massive wood orc discovers him. Gentai barely dodges the initial attack. Seeing the creature up close, he finds it even larger than Chu. As the orc prepares to finish him off, an object hits the beast with great force. The blow is so powerful that the orc instantly collapses. Before Gintei can process the event, our boy makes his entry. He has just utilized his new pitch skill, filling a thrown object with magical power. Later, the two of them cook the Ostracosaurus meat. Cholu feels grateful he could save his friend in time, but Gintei feels disappointed that he could not handle the orc himself. He explains that his family is very wealthy, so he never had to do anything for himself. Chelu offers him a piece of meat and reminds him not to be so hard on himself. He tells Gintei that being weak with the present is not a sin and advises him to train to become a great warrior. Jint, stunned by these words, feeling that Kaoldu has matured significantly since arriving in Nova. While eating, our hero reveals that he is actually a barbarian, noting that his kind is naturally different from humans. Gintai is confused and repeats claims, so Chaolu explains he is a barbarian from a different planet. This information hits Jinta like a bullet. He asks if Cholu means barbarians like the warmongers in video games, realizing he has seen too many strange things for Chu to be a normal human. Chelu points out that he thought Gintai already knew the truth, but Gintai stands up and shakes his head, arguing there was no way he could have known. Now Chu is the one who is shocked, while Gintei is surprised by the assumption. Our protagonist lets out a small laugh. He explains he only wanted Jintei to stop comparing their progress because they are fundamentally different. The next day they return to the Holy Pyramid. Upon paying the 2,000 coins the pyramid activates, the system grants an initial reward, giving Gintai 2 inventory points and Chu 5. Gintai is excited and wonders if the pyramid contains a subspace, while our boy guesses the reward scale based on the coins contributed. Another system notification appears, granting both men the Holy Blessing, which doubles their recovery rate for 24 hours. Feeling refreshed by the buff, Gintei believes he can finally become stronger and stop relying solely on our hero. Out of nowhere, the orc from before returns with 2 larger companions to seek revenge. Gintai instinctively hides behind Xiaolu, but the barbarian wants him to stand and fight since the rewards have made him stronger. Our hero steps forward, declaring that Gintei has no reason to be scared. With a barbarian on his side, Kyoolu instantly dashes forward, planning to intercept Gent on the other side. Jin panics, having assumed they would fight the horde together. Without hesitation, our hero drives his spear through one orc, lifting creature high into the air before slamming it hard against the ground. Right then, another orc appears directly behind our boy, ready to land a lethal blow. Fortunately, Gintai intervenes just in time, attacking the monster and drawing its aggro. Now engaged in a solo struggle, Jin struggles as the orc strikes from multiple directions. He feels as though he is dying, his body beginning to bleed from the onslaught. Soon, however, his form starts to glow as he receives a holy blessing. doubling his recovery rate for the next 24 hours. Satisfied by this newfound resilience, he begins dodging with renewed determination, fired up by the desire to become strong enough to stand as a barbarian's true friend. Despite his resolve, Gent receives a heavy blow that sends him slamming into a nearby tree. Kneeling on the ground, he admits to himself that he has relied too heavily on the blessing, but he notices a silver lining. He can finally see a pattern in his opponent's attacks. Dashing forward with intent, he anticipates the orc's downward strike. After narrowly dodging the fatal hit, Gent leaps and pierces his knife into the enemy's throat, finally defeating it. Chelu praises this progress. While Gente admits he is finally getting a handle on things, he stands stunned by how our protagonist has totally decimated the other. As a Aristom notification pops up for Chelu announcing that he has obtained the spear mastery skill. He is pleased to receive a new skill using the weapon stolen from his enemies. Gent notes that this must be similar to how he acquired his production skill. The thought of learning skills simply by using different weapons excites our hero. With sparkling eyes, Chelu asks Gentente if he has already recovered. Gentai immediately understands that the warrior wants to resume the hunt. Pointing at a set of footprints, Chelu follows the trail toward what he believes is an orc hideout, hoping to find weapons other than spears. Soon the pair finds the orc village and hides behind the bushes. Nearby, two scouts whisper to one another, discussing how their army would have already taken control of the area if not for these monsters. One scout feels proud to be the first to find the hideout, while the other suggests they hurry back to report their findings. Unexpectedly, a hand reaches out to them, making both scouts scream. It is actually Kaolu appearing behind them, reminding them to keep their mouths shut. He comments on their disguises, noting they were so effective, he almost didn't recognize them. They laugh it off while pointing toward the enemy territory. These men are actually underlings of our protagonist. The leader of the group, number 1, informs him that if they get caught, they won't make it back alive. He advises our boy to leave. Even though the barbarian is powerful, the orc lord makes this place too dangerous. Number 1 believes the army is required to deal with such a threat. But Shu is only concerned with the shiny weapon the lord is holding. He stands up immediately, planning to take that axe for himself. He leaves for the village along with Gintai, ignoring the underlings' attempts to stop him. After defeating the surrounding orcs, Cholu stands before the orc lord. He advises Jinta to rest, while he takes care of the leader personally. He attempts to speak to the giant in the orc language, but the lord becomes furious. Realizing Kaolu is merely repeating insults he has heard elsewhere, the orc lord instantly lands a heavy strike with his axe. After dodging, our protagonist lands a kick against the lord's armor, but the metal is unexpectedly strong. Realizing he cannot fight this opponent barehanded, Cholu barely manages to dodge another swing. If that axe lands, he knows he is finished, as even his ogre skin won't hold up against it. Seizing an opening, he grabs the lord's arm and decides to take the weapon by force, lifting the massive orc into the air. As soon as the axe lands in his hand, Chelu strikes the orc down. A system notification informs him that he has obtained the axe mastery skill. From the sidelines, the underlings are stunned to see that he has actually defeated the orc lord. Ginte is equally impressed to see our boy destroy such a formidable enemy. Number 1 admits how powerful Chelu truly is, considering him closer to a monster than a human. As Chelu stands tall over his fallen foe, the underlings worry that a force of nature like him cannot be allowed to roam freely. Regardless of their fears, our hero has successfully acquired the Orc Lord's great axe. At the military base, Colonel Moran Jang receives a report detailing how Cholu single-handedly defeated the junior ogre boss during his test before completely wiping out the Yongu clan and the Wood Orcs on Nova. The colonel questions why such talent hasn't been observed until now. The reporter informs her that it is likely due to his age, as he is not yet old enough to be enlisted. Upon discovering that the boy is merely a senior in high school, she closes the file and immediately orders an enlistment notice to be sent so they can recruit our protagonist without delay. The soldier before her suggests it may not be that simple, as the boy does not seem like someone who takes orders easily. Colonel Zhang believes they must keep individuals like him in check. Suddenly, Warrant Officer O arrives at the door. The colonel smirks, having already wanted to see him. Hearing the officer's name, the reporter wonders if she intends to send pursuers after Chaolu. With a dark expression, she mentions they are about to face a new world. If our hero refuses to cooperate, they will use force. Warrant Officer Zhanhuan O enters and salutes his superior. A portal appears in the Chinju disaster area. Members of the Yongu clan emerge as onlookers point out that the thugs have finally been beaten, noting that it serves them right. Others mention that the clan had also stolen from them. Among the crowd, Chu and Gintai stand watching. Seeing the public reaction, Ginti realizes everyone is aware of what has transpired. Zhang appears and remarks that our boy has become the hero of Nova in Xiongju. Meanwhile, Chelu feels good to be back on Earth and decides to visit his father at home immediately. Before he can leave, a voice calls out to him. Second Lieutenant Seong Choi has arrived to deliver a proposal from the army. Our protagonist grows confused while Ginta finds the officer quite pretty. Song begins her explanation, but without listening to the full speech, Chulu turns away to leave. Shung panics and yells for him to wait. Unable to process being ignored, she shouts that they are offering him a position as a commissioned officer. Gentai is stunned to hear that our hero could go straight to the upper ranks, but Chelu remains entirely uninterested. Sion furious, but her subordinate reminds her that people like him are difficult to handle. The subordinate then addresses Chelu as a rude high school poser and lands a kick on him. This man is actually Officer O, who asks if our boy is ready to talk now. Before Chu can reposition himself, O lands a series of rapid kicks. Feeling power behind the strikes, Chelu admits that the man is incredibly strong and fast. Officer O mocks him, calling him a rookie compared to the fighters in Neo Soul. The term is new to Chelu. O continues his speech, telling the boy to accept his duty to serve and claiming he deserves to mentor him once he joins. Chelu realizes the true powerhouses are located on Nova. He believes an opponent like this soldier would have been impossible to beat if he hadn't grown stronger himself. When O asks for a decision, our protagonist laughs it off, noting that the officer looks like a big shot from Nova. Chelu enters his fighting mode, deciding to give his all to win because he has no intention of enlisting. Officer O finds the threat cute until our hero attacks from a different angle, asking if he finds this move cute as well. With grim determination, Chelu begins landing heavy punches. The officer is forced into a defensive position, struggling to understand where this power is coming from. Chu continues his assault without taking a single step back. O is baffled, having believed this was the boy's first trip to Nova, yet he finds himself unable to counter any attacks. Driven by his pride as a ranker, O rushes forward to counterattack. To his surprise, he is met with a devastating knee from our boy. He begins to bleed and slams forcefully into the ground. Number 1 wonders happily if his leader has won the fight, while Ginte observes that the combat is inhuman. Shung rushes to the fallen officer in a panic. Kyoto remarks that the fight wasn't bad and leaves telling O he will catch up with him later on. Nova, covering his eyes with one hand, wonders how the boy is so strong. Shung asks if he is crying, but officer laughs it off, remarking that he was simply beaten by a kid. He stands up with her help, vowing never to forget the name Chelu. Back at home during dinner, Chelu and father learns that the world may be ending. Soon our protagonist calms him, stating that he is there to protect him. Pointing at an orc axe, the elder says he wouldn't have believed the stories if his son hadn't brought such an object home. It is possible to bring items from Nova to Earth, though not the other way around. Chelu asks his father to come to Nova with him, but the old man declines. He is pleased to see his son finding his own way, and insists his only duty is to keep farming until the end. Chelu suggests he can farm on Nova as well. While drinking, his grandfather sigh, saying he doesn't have many days left and cannot adjust to a new place. Internally, our hero admits the old man is right. The planet is too dangerous, and passing the doomsday exam would be impossible for him. He decides he will take his father once he becomes even stronger. He tells the old man to wait for the right time. Suddenly, the bell rings. The old man wonders if they have a guest, while Chu simply comments that the visitor is fast. Later, our protagonist sits with Ginte to research Nova. The government has censored most information, labeling it a national disaster. Xiaolu points out they are controlling the media to reduce public confusion, which allows those in the know to take advantage of the situation. Gintai reminds him of what the soldier said regarding Neo Soul and explains that Chongju is not the only portal location. Portals are open in various regions. Government entities and corporations have already begun developing Nova. Neo Soul, for instance, is connected to a portal in Payu that opened 2 years ago. Considering 2 years on Earth equals 10 years in Nova time, Chelu believes the area must be filled with powerful people. Jinti realizes why Neo Soul is considered the premier location for growth, though they won't receive initial activation rewards there, since it is already developed. Chelu feels that staying behind would only set him back, believing better weapons and gear will be available in such an advanced area. After their discussion, Chelu decides to move. Jint notes they lack a car because his father took his away, but our boy just laughs, having already made a plan. Later, they ride in a vehicle driven by a woman from his group of underlings. Zhangdu thinks our hero has made an excellent choice. He and his men wish to follow Chaoldu as their boss, though they still have business to settle with the remains of the Yonggu clan. Chelu acknowledges this and instructs them to catch up once they finish their business. The driver wonders if they will be safe in a place under heavy military influence. Chelu has already decided to remove anything that stands in his way. Soon the car arrives near Neo Soul. Both our protagonist and Ginte stand beneath the massive portal. Gente wonders what it looks like on the other side, but Chelu doesn't care about the scenery as long as he can grow stronger. Jen stands amazed by the landscape of Neo Seoul. Having only existed for a decade, the city exceeds his expectations, appearing as developed to him as the height of the Joseon dynasty. Chelu finds the progress impressive as well. Their observation is interrupted when a middle-aged woman yells for help, pointing toward a thief causing chaos nearby. As the criminal rushes toward our protagonist, he demands that the path be cleared. To the thief's surprise, our hero grabs him by the face and slams him into the ground. Chelu feels a surge of excitement at the prospect of facing new opponents in this city. Later, he and Jinte enjoy a meal provided by the same woman who offers the treat in gratitude for the recovery of her monthly savings. As Gintai eats, he remarks on the benefits of civilization, recalling the days when he had to survive on crocodile meat. Meanwhile, our boy has already polished off a dozen bowls. The worker tells them to eat their fill since the meal is on the house. While enjoying the food, our hero insists the deed was a simple matter and encourages the lady to reach out if she ever faces trouble again. He then returns to his meal with frantic energy. The woman feels a sense of relief, but mentions that the village is plagued by raiders despite the presence of soldiers. When Gintai asks if such incidents are common, she nods, explaining that the situation has worsened as the population of Neo Seoul spiked. With a shortage of monsters to hunt, the strong have begun to prey on the weak. This news only makes Chelu more eager to turn these villains into his own prey. The lady advises them to acquire the discovery skill before entering any more fights. When our protagonist asks about skill, she realizes they are newcomers. She explains that discovery is essential in this region and can be obtained by hunting eagle owls in the local grounds. This ability allows a person to check the attributes of others. Jink grows excited, noting they could finally check their own stats. Our hero stands up instantly, ready to hunt the owls. Noticing they are barehanded, the woman suggests they gear up first. The duo eventually departs the leather shop wearing newly purchased armor, though they still lack proper weapons. Following the lady's recommendation, they arrive at the Yongho workshop, which is reportedly run by a master craftsman. A drunken man appears behind them and asks for their business. Chelu states they need weapons, while Ginti expresses annoyance at the man's heavy scent of alcohol. The drunkard passes them, noting they are currently unarmed. Jinte asks if the smith takes custom orders, having heard he can forge anything. Calling them innocent, the drunken man reveals that the workshops in Neo Seoul have largely vanished. When our boy asks why, the blacksmith explains that iron has become scarce since bandits seized the mines on Obong Mountain. Chiodu asks if these bandits also rob the common folk. Smith confirms this, adding that the group is led by the Big Three. The primary leader is Ho Jang, a nightmare of a man who executes those in his way. He carries a bounty of 100,000 goblin coins, and his crew is so formidable that the army remains powerless. A full-scale conflict would plunge Neo Seoul into a massive crisis. This danger only serves to excite our hero. Summoning his orcs, he asks if the blacksmith will resume his work if they eliminate Hawk. The man recognizes the weapon immediately, wondering how the boy obtained such a precious item. But Sheldu demands a straight answer. The blacksmith agrees, promising that if the workshop reopens, he will forge any weapon they desire. Our protagonist instructs the man to sober up in the meantime, vowing to destroy the bandits of Obong Mountain. The pair begins their journey toward the peaks. As they walk, Gintai asks why another weapon is necessary when the axe is so powerful. Sheldu explains that different opponents require different combat styles, making preparation a necessity. Gentai understands, but worries about the high volume of fighters in the area. He fears they won't even get close to an owl and grumbles that things were easier at the Cheongju portal. Our hero quickly devises a plan. Using his pitch skill, he hurls a small rock that strikes an owl directly, knocking it out instantly. However, he reveals he was actually aiming for a different target he had sensed. From the fallen owl, our boy gains the discovery skill, allowing him to analyze abilities. He examines his own status window, noting his traits and skills. He is surprised to find he possesses the blessing of the fairy, a confusing development since barbarians and fairies are natural enemies. His thoughts are cut short when Ginte asks him to check his stats. Our protagonist sees nothing and tells his friend to work harder. Nearby, two fighters watch them from the shadows. First Sergeant Yongsuki and Captain Junop Choi. The captain is bleeding. The stone who threw was meant for him, but the owl had inadvertently moved into the flight path, leaving Johnny up with only a scratch. He wonders if our hero sensed their presence. Noting that Chelu previously defeated Officer O, Junop decides he wants to recruit the boy. Young-Soo observes the duo heading toward Obong Mountain. Junop breaks into a sweat, certain the boys are walking toward their deaths. Soon the pair enters bandit territory. The outlaws spot them and mock their bravery for trespassing. Upon seeing the orc axe, greed overtakes the group. Their leader Hok Jang watches with excitement, ready to begin the hunt. Soon they spot Obong Mountain, which appears to be the location the blacksmith mentioned. Chelu comments that they have walked considerable distance without seeing any bandits. His friend worriedly asks if he is truly capable of taking care of them, noting that these bandits are rumored to be quite strong. However, our hero tells him not to worry since he won't lose to idiots, adding that he wants to test his axe. Suddenly, he notices something. With quick reflexes, he cuts down incoming arrows. Our protagonist detects the presence of several enemies in the woods. Seeing them retreat and noticing a thick fog, Chelu realizes it is a trap and shouts for Ginte to take cover behind him. As Gint hides, our boy activates the ogre's skin skill, using his thick hide to shield his friend from hundreds of arrows. Realizing the situation is growing more complex, he orders his friend to retreat immediately. He explains that it will not be easy to shake off their pursuers or escape this forest, and the longer they turn their backs to flee, the more danger they will face. Gentai notices a cut from an arrow that grazed Chaolu earlier is starting to turn green, indicating the weapon was poisoned. Our hero simply smiles and admits he let his guard down for a moment, as even Ogre's skin cannot block arrow poison. Gent furiously calls him an idiot and asks how he can laugh in such a situation. Our boy insists that Jinte will not be able to handle this fight and tells him to leave. When Gentai asks if he will be alright, our protagonist tells him not to underestimate him, reminding his friend that he is a barbarian. As Gintai runs off to get help, Chelu heads into battle against the forest bandits with excitement. After several skirmishes, night falls while our hero continues defeating his enemies. However, the poison is spreading, causing him concern as his body becomes increasingly unresponsive. Yet with the determination and willpower of a barbarian, he keeps eliminating the bandits, leaving them in disbelief that he is still standing despite his condition. Bearing the pain, Chelu decides it is best not to let the fight drag on any further. He clears a path through the ranks and escapes immediately. He soon reaches the base of the mountain and believes he might escape, but he stops abruptly upon finding himself at the edge of a massive pit. Standing before the drop, our boy is caught off guard by the bandit leader Ho Jong-hu, comments on the trouble the warrior has caused. Completely poisoned and panting, our protagonist realizes he was led here deliberately. With amusement, Hoyle remarks that Chaeslu is an interesting person to hunt. Our hero asks if he truly considers this hunting, prompting Ho to mock him. The leader points out that it is impressive he can still move while infected, then declares he will be reduced to nothing as he falls into the deep pit. Chelu's vision starts to blur, and his focus is heavily impaired. He reflects that if he were an honorable warrior, he would surely risk his life, but he remembers he is a barbarian. He has no intention of surrendering his fate to a dishonorable leader, so he unexpectedly jumps into the pit himself, leaving the surrounding weaklings stunned. While falling, our boy curses the bandits. He soon hits the water at the bottom of the pit and wonders if this is how it all ends. Surprisingly, he finds himself on the barren hills of Valhalla and looks much younger. He wonders if this is the barbarian's inner realm, a place his father described as being deep within a warrior's mind for training and healing. He questions why he looks like his childhood self and fears he may be trapped inside his past. Soon he feels a pleasant sensation as small creatures surprise him. These are spirits controlled by fairies. He recalls that his status window identified them as a blessing. Though they are considered curses for barbarians, these spirits have surrounded him since birth, and in his childhood innocence he told his friends about them. Rumors spread. His secret was revealed, and eventually his family became enemies of the entire tribe. His family tried to run away, and at the time he thought it was all his fault. However, his mother told him he was not to blame, as the spirits are a part of him that he cannot deny. Since then, he has always turned his back on these creatures and his true self. Tears fall as our protagonist realizes his soul is still stuck in the past because of what happened. Wiping his eyes, Chelu decides to survive no matter what, honoring the sacrifice his family made for his life. Sitting there, our boy wonders if he might heal wounds in this realm. He begins to control everything from head to toe, governing his mind and embracing the pain. Finally, he expels the poison from his body into the water. He begins to react, regains movement, and feels better than before, as though a burden has been lifted from his shoulders. The system shows multiple notifications for poison resistance and confirms he has acquired the skill. After leaving the water, our hero confirms this was indeed the power of the inner realm. Having survived near death, he is now one step closer to becoming a true barbarian warrior. Feeling a surge of excitement, Jolu now wonders how to escape the pit. Soon he feels a breeze drifting from one side and decides to follow the path. After shifting a large stone, he discovers a hidden entrance equipped with stairs. He descends to find a secret dungeon crawling with hundreds of L's. A system notification informs him that he must clear the dungeon, including the null boss, to receive a mystery reward for the first completion. Viewing this as a golden opportunity, Our hero prepares to face the horde with confidence. Meanwhile, Gent runs desperately through the woods, with bandits hot on his heels. One pursuer finds an opening and catches him from behind, leveling a blade to take Ginta's life. Before the bandit can strike, an arrow pierces him, killing him instantly. His saviors are Sergeant Yong and Captain Choi. Quickly scrambles up, but before they can even introduce themselves, more bandits surround the trio. Yang and Choi prepare for combat as the enemy rushes in. Captain Choi orders his units into action and the battle begins in earnest. Back with Chelu, the warrior has already defeated a significant number of elves. Yet he notices there seems to be no end to the beasts. Even after slaying 100 of them, they keep appearing. He finds this infinite cycle strange until he spots a different creature lurking in the shadows, the Null Chief. Making his way through the pack, our protagonist finally reaches the leader. He reminds himself that the main objective is to eliminate the chief to end the assault. Seeing him approach, the chief casts fire magic at Chelu. Our boy immediately activates Ogre's skin to protect himself from the flames and creates an opening for a counterattack. He hurls his weapon using the throwing skill pitch. Although the Null Chief manages to defend with his staff, our protagonist uses the distraction to jump high into the air. The chief fails to realize the warrior is already above him until it's too late. Cholu delivers a crushing blow that slams the monster into the ground. After defeating his foe, our protagonist retrieves his axe along with the chief's staff. Following Barbarian tradition, he claims the head of the defeated leader to officially clear the dungeon. System windows begin to rain notifications upon him. As a reward, he earns the boss emblem, which grants the power to create a tribe and claim territory in major areas. He also receives the Great Staff of the Guardian for being the first to complete the challenge. Additionally, Chelu receives a bonus, the activation of the world map. As he wonders what this entails, a strange energy manifests on his arm, forming a permanent emblem. Through this, he can now access a map, though it only shows locations he had already visited like Neo Seoul and Obong Mountain. The rest of the world remains dark, but as usual, our hero becomes incredibly excited about the prospect of exploring the unknown. Suddenly, a red notification flashes a warning about the dungeon's closure, instructing our boy to leave before the area is flooded. Water begins to pour into the chamber, prompting Chelu to quickly collect the dropped coins and ability stones before making his escape. Sometime later, he emerges from the water back within the pit, wondering how to climb the smooth, slick walls. As he searches for a grip, hears a familiar voice from above. It is Jinte. Our hero waves and shouts to get his attention. Tearful Jinte is relieved to find him alive and lowers a rope. Protagonist feels a sense of warmth seeing his friend keep his promise. Once he climbs out, Ginte asks if he is alright. Chelu laughs it off, confirming he is fine before showing off his new tattoo. Nearby, the captain and sergeant worry about their next move now that they have been exposed. The captain decides they must follow Chaolu as their orders are to protect and observe him. But he insists on hiding their military identities, since the warrior is known to dislike soldiers. Gentai introduces the pair as the people who saved him, leading our protagonist to conclude they are good people. The soldiers introduce themselves and lie, claiming they are merely college friends. Our boy immediately uses his skills to analyze them, noting that they seem quite strong. The soldiers sweat, fearing he has realized their true professions, but Sheldu unexpectedly asks if they are also there to fight the bandits. Sensing an out, the captain nods and claims they have a personal grudge. When our hero asks for details about this grudge, the duo begins to panic. In a moment of desperation, the sergeant blurts out that he lost his mother to the bandits. Cholu finds this lamentable. Since they saved Jinte, he refers to himself as Big Bro Chu and vows to help them take revenge. Confused, the captain asks why he is calling himself Big Bro when they are 31 years old. Annoyed, our protagonist lies and claims he is 32. This infuriates the soldiers who already he is a high school student. Regardless, Chelu tells them not to worry, beaming as he promises to offer Hokjang's head to the sergeant's mother. The sergeant freezes in embarrassment, silently apologizing to his mother for the lie. Captain Choi reflects on the rumors he had heard. He knew Chelu was competitive, but he hadn't expected him to charge back for a rematch with Hoshiel Jang so soon. He asks our hero about the next phase of the plan while addressing him as Mr. Chelu. This choice of words clearly displeases our boy. With a single look, he scares the soldier into quickly switching to Big Brother. With his expression softening, Chelu reveals the strategy. First, they will scout the area to locate the hideout. Then, they will launch a direct invasion to eliminate Hokjang. He stands confidently, considering his plan perfect. However, the captain asks if he might add a suggestion, Shaolus, while addressing him as little brother. Though visibly annoyed by the title, the captain remains professional, and points out that there is no need to search as the enemy base is situated at the very top of the mountain. Surprised, our hero questions how he knows this. The captain simply smiles, claiming he did some research for the sake of his revenge. Accepting this, our protagonist decides to head directly for the summit, declaring that real men face their enemies head-on. On the way up, they are quickly engaged by bandits. The four of them display great skill, easily defeating the attackers. Even after being struck by several poisoned arrows, Chelu continues fighting, his body now naturally resistant to the toxins. He cuts through the bandits one after the other, until the skirmish is won. Jintei finds this new resistance skill incredible. Behind them, the sergeant whispers to his captain that while Chaolu acts recklessly, he has managed to make it this far on his own. The captain notes that at this pace, our hero might actually be able to bring down Ho Jiang. The region is currently divided between three factions: the military-protected Neo Seoul to the southwest, the bandits of Manhwa to the northeast, and the horseback raiders in the northern wasteland. The army has been unable to eliminate the bandits due to the agile tactics led by Ho Jiang. Furthermore, if they lose too many troops in a localized war, Neo Seoul would be left vulnerable to the raiders. Most importantly, if Major Lee, one of the big three, were to be injured, it would spell the end for the city. Captain Choi realizes that our hero defeating the bandit leader would be a massive windfall for the military. Suddenly, Cholu collapses to Niska, startling the group. They notice his entire body is burning with fever, covered in angry reddish patches. Our hero mutters that his head has been spinning ever since he activated those ability stones. A red system window flashes, warning him that stone absorption has reached an overload state. The stones aren't providing any benefits. They are simply making him delirious. The sergeant asks if he accidentally absorbed too many, and a sheepish Chaldoo admits he must have consumed at least 30. Shocked, the sergeant explains that this is well beyond what a human can digest. At this rate, his abilities will fail and it could cost him his life. He suggests an immediate retreat to the village for treatment, but the captain notes it is too late. They are already in the heart of the bandit lair, facing hundreds of enemies. One bandit at the front recognizes Chelu and mocks him for surviving the pit, but our boy immediately slams him into the ground while shouting for Ho Jiang. From behind, the sergeant insists he is in no shape to fight, but Ho Jiang himself emerges from the crowd, addressing himself as the Mountain King. He watches as our protagonist mocks his self-centered nature. Hawk notes that the boy managed to climb out of the pit, but declares he will finish the job this time. He orders his underlings to handle the others while he deals with Chelu personally. Charging with a flail, the leader strikes at our hero, who blocks the blow with his axe. The two exchange a series of powerful strikes until Hoyle manages to land a heavy hit. The impact sends Kyolu flying through the air, crashing into a bandit hut. Rising from the wreckage, our protagonist acknowledges the leader's overwhelming power and wide attack range, which makes finding an opening with an axe difficult. Refusing to give up, he charges back into the fray and manages to entangle the flail around his axe. Both weapons are tossed aside in the struggle. Now excited to fight with his bear, Hans Jelu engages in a direct brawl. Jiang mocks him, claiming it makes no difference against a weak human body. He finds an opening and lands a damaging blow to the waist, but at the last moment, our hero activates Ogre's skin to mitigate the impact. When Sheldu reveals he isn't exactly human, Janang laughs, stating he already knew about the ogre's skin. Seizing a momentary gap, our protagonist lands a heavy punch on Jen's face, knocking him down. To his shock, Janang seems unfazed and activates his own ogre's skin while on the ground. He jokingly calls Chu a child and scolds him for being disrespectful to his elders. While our hero is stunned by the realization that they share the same ability, Jang seizes the opportunity. He lands a direct blow to the chin, and sends our protagonist reeling back. The rest of the group, already cornered by bandits, watches in horror. Jinte is especially terrified, having never seen anyone stronger than Kielu. Sergeant suggests grabbing the boy and running, but they are completely surrounded. The situation turns dire as Jang begins to strangle Kaolu with brute force. As Ginte's focus shifts to his friend, a bandit leaps at him to deliver a finishing blow, only for Captain Choi to intervene just in time. The fallen bandit proudly declares they are all dead, explaining that their leader is using the human squeezer technique. As he squeezes the life out of our hero, Jen asks where his confidence has gone. He reveals that he has hunted ogres twice. While he possesses ogre's skin, his second ability is ogre's power, allowing crush stone with ease. Jang roars that he is the personification of power itself. Shailu starts laughing, mocking Janang's power. Right then, Jang shouts that the youth is just pretending to be strong, and applies even more force to squeeze him. Still feeling the overload effect, our hero feels strange, as if he is about to vomit at any moment. Meanwhile, Jang squeezes him harder and harder. Soon our protagonist releases all the overload through his mouth, leaving everyone stunned. After that moment, Cholu feels much better. He smiles and comments that he feels great. In the meantime, the system announces that he has absorbed all the stones. Jang, displeased, calls him arrogant. He furiously adjusts his grip and squeezes even harder. applying a pressure that would have split anyone else apart. However, Cheluz manages to slip his arm through to disrupt the grip, forcing Jang to release his waist. This gives our protagonist the opportunity to grab Jang's arm. Seizing the chance, he applies a legendary arm block, leaving his opponent vulnerable. He confidently applies tremendous force to the limb until the bone snaps. Chu distances himself with a quick jump back while Janang screams in pain, lamenting his broken arm. Seeing their boss overpowered, the underlings start to doubt what is happening, questioning if their leader is truly being defeated. Even our boy's companions are surprised that he now has the upper hand after all the suffering he endured earlier. Furiously, Yang shouts insults at him for breaking his arm and swears to kill him. He grabs a weapon and tries to strike Chelu, but our hero manages to dodge the blow. The weapon hits the ground instead, splitting the earth apart. With a completely different expression, our protagonist dodges the subsequent attacks easily. The captain, who saw what he went through earlier, is surprised by the unique strength and increased speed he now possesses. While evading the blows, our hero grabs Jen's weapon with his left hand. With his right, he seizes Yang's neck, choking him despite the man's ogre skin and strength. Janang is unable to break free from Chelu and Crescent Hand, which suffocates him more and more. Our protagonist manages to lift the large man into the air and mocks him for calling himself the personification of power. Gasping for air, Jen begs to be released. He is surprised when our hero actually lets him go. However, Chelu picks up the discarded weapon and states that it is time to avenge the mother of Sergeant Yang and the citizens of Neo Seoul. Jang doesn't understand much as he watches Cholu hold the weapon. Preparing his strike, our hero comments that he hates people who target the weak. He lands a powerful blow straight to Yang's head, instantly knocking him out and finally defeating him. Seeing their boss eliminated shatters the will of the underlings, who immediately think of begging for their lives. Meanwhile, Captain Choi is stunned to see Chelu defeating one of the big three, just like that. Unexpectedly, a treasure sack appears on top of Yang. This is a ranker's treasure sack belonging to the novice ranker Ho Chi Jong. Our protagonist turns to the underlings and asks if they are planning to snatch the backpack away. They instantly beg for forgiveness, pleading for their lives. Our hero proudly declares that he won't punish anyone for simply following a bad leader. He goes straight to Jang and picks up the dropped backpack. However, like a monster's corpse, Janang's body disperses into the air and disappears, leaving our protagonist surprised. The captain explains that happens because he was a strength ranker, and rankers are classified similarly to monsters. When our protagonist asks how it works, the soldier explains that to become a ranker, one of the 5 skill statistics must be above 50 points. Checking his own stats, our boy notes that, unfortunately, none of his have reached that mark. This leaves the sergeant even more surprised that Shu defeated a ranker with just physical strength. Choi explains that people have different abilities. Even if they have the same statistics, they can possess different strengths. Our hero calls his group together and decides to return. The cap remains shocked that he beat Jang without even being a ranker, and feels curious about what he will do in the future. Later, the group arrives at the village and shares dinner at the table. Our protagonist gives a boat, Jinta, explaining it was found in the bag, and offers other items to the rest of the group. Observing his kindness, the captain insists they should be the ones giving something to him. Our hero curiously asks what they intend to give. The captain initially thinks they shouldn't reveal their identity, but since Chelu defeated Janang, he finally reveals that they are soldiers from the defense command. He adds that they already knew who the group was from the start and apologizes for the deception. However, our protagonist had already suspected they were soldiers. Gentai even explains it was obvious due to the way they spoke. Chelu mentions that they helped save Gente, so they are now even. He then asks if they have come to recruit him again. The captain shakes his head, clarifying that their mission was to follow and protect him until they determined if he was an enemy or a friend. When our boy asks what they found out, the captain calmly reveals that since he eliminated the bandits, they consider him a friend and an ally of the military force. Captain Choi wants him to present himself the next day at headquarters to receive a reward for Jen's head. Child gets excited about the reward and confirms he will go, addressing the captain as a little brother. On it, the soldiers reveal how much older they are than him, so our hero teasingly addresses them as older little bros. This leaves both soldiers incredibly annoyed, to the point of wanting to teach him a lesson. The next day at headquarters, an old man questions a young assistant about why their hero hasn't arrived yet. The assistant explains that Captain Park of the Special Forces has gone to receive him. The elder with a cold expression repeats the words, "Captain Park," startling the assistant. The subordinate immediately corrects himself, saying he meant Commissioner Park. The elder finally laughs, pleased with that title. This man is Major General Junpil Park of Neo Seoul Defense Operations. Soon he receives news that Chu and Gente have arrived and orders them to be escorted in. Seeing our boy, the general mentions the powerful aura he emanates. He He greets the youth while explaining his position in the army. Our protagonist asks if he is the chief of Neo Soul. The old man, a bit of a roleplay addict, finds this amusing and wonders if Chiu also likes to roleplay. They sit down to discuss matters. The general thanks him for saving the people of Neo Soul and mentions the bounty. He then proposes a deal. Our protagonist suspiciously states that if the proposal involves military service, he will pass. The general chuckles, making it clear he won't force him to enlist. Instead, he wants Cholu to create his own mercenary squad with full military support. The general mentions that this would allow him to create the tribe he always wanted. This tempts our hero as it would be an independent squad, not tied down by military bureaucracy. He questions the level of support they will provide. The general promises access to the base, the use of Neo Soul's infrastructure, armory requests, and even hot soups at the restaurant. Hearing about the hot soups, Chelu gets excited, viewing those as great perks. The general adds that they will supply food and gear for battles as well. Finding the deal almost too good, our boy asks what is required in return. The general explains it is simple. He needs to take care of unwanted enemies. The first request is to eliminate the horseback raiders. Chelu is confused by the name, but Gent points out that this group is one of the 3 major powers in command, questioning how they could possibly manage such a feat. Suddenly, someone behind a curtain mocks them for losing their composure before the battle has even begun. A beautiful young woman reveals herself, asking how they could ever get rid of the horseback raiders when they don't stand a chance. Both our hero and Jinte shift their focus to her. The lady steps forward, acting as if she doesn't know who they are, and asks how they dared to touch what belongs to her. Our protagonist, staring at her with his usual confidence, proudly states his name. Unexpectedly, the girl draws her blade, commenting that he is bold for speaking to her that way, placing her blade against his neck with a serious expression. She remarks that someone needs to teach him a lesson. This girl is the best swordmaster Shosian, and she now holds her blade directly against Xiaolu's neck. Our protagonist, unfazed, asks whom he should show respect to if that person is pointing a weapon at him. Realizing she has crossed the line, she lowers her sword and reveals her identity as Major Yunyong Li, a 22-year-old officer. Claiming the seniority of age, she demands that he address her as Major Li. However, our hero teasingly calls her by her first name, which leaves her absolutely livid. When Young despises his casual tone, but Sheldu points out that this is simply how one should greet another person. She prepares to draw her sword again, asking if he intends to keep provoking the swordmaster of San. Our protagonist merely retorts that she only managed to claim that title while he was away. Both of them grow increasingly annoyed, reaching a breaking point where a fight seems inevitable. However, the general interrupts the tension and invites Chelu to try some treats, a gesture that immediately distracts him. The general calls Lee aside to scold her for her behavior. She tries to justify her actions, arguing that our hero is not a trustworthy person and reminding the general that she wants the solo responsibility of taking care of the horseback raiders. The general insists she give up that notion, explaining they cannot defeat the bandits alone. A memory flashes through Yunyong Tu's mind. She is about to kill a northern bandit and cries out, asking why he let her win. The bandit, having accepted his fate, simply commented on how much she had grown. In her pain, she demanded an answer, but her former teacher stated his defeat was a parting gift for an old student. Instead of striking him down, Lee had shifted her blade and turned away. The leader of the northern bandits noted that she still possessed a soft heart, despite his lessons on being relentless for the sake of Neo Soul. She refused to accept a victory offered by a traitor, claiming the army would eliminate the swamp bandits instead. Back in the present, she begs the general to let her handle the raiders herself. The general holds her steady and reveals he has a plan. Turning back to our hero, the general explains his vision. The mercenary group Chelu creates will join the army in a joint strike against the raiders. These bandits are a major threat to Neo Soul, and their swift cavalry makes them difficult to catch. Our protagonist grows excited at the mention of the unit, asks if he can keep the horses if they emerge victorious. Remembering his father, who is the greatest rider in the Barbarian land, our hero realizes he has always wanted to follow in those footsteps. He agrees to the mission. The general thanks him to seal the deal, but Chelu insists on clarifying one thing first. He stands before Lee, and the two stare each other down. Our hero states that the hierarchy must be made clear. She accepts the challenge, and they head to the headquarters training grounds. Ginta asks how he intends to fight, and our protagonist declares he will use a sword. Ginta is shocked as he has never seen him wield one, but our boy comments that the principles of all weapons are the same. He pulls Jang's backpack from the system, while Ginte eagerly waits to see a legendary blade. Noting that Lee's sword looks terrifying, Chu is busy rummaging for a rusty sword he saw earlier. He claims that only amateurs blame their weapons and proudly pulls out the worn blade. Declaring himself a pro warrior, the general is shocked that he intends to use such a thing against the best swordmaster in the land. He asks Lee if blades are truly necessary, but she refuses to use fake ones. She finds our hero arrogant and wants to teach him a proper lesson. Her fiery spirit only excites our protagonist. He sarcastically offers her the first move. She lunges, declaring she will teach him the way of sword, but our hero simply counters, causing their blades to clash. Seeing an opening, he shouts that it is his turn and strike. Lee dodges and reappears behind him, mocking his speed as slow. The two begin to exchange a flurry of blows. Observing her movements, Chelu realizes that she is not just fast but incredibly skilled. Lee praises our hero's defense before preparing a powerful finishing move using mana concentration. She lands a heavy strike and follows up with a relentless series of blows. However, our protagonist resists, defending against her incredible strength and speed. Suddenly, the system announces that his understanding of fencing is deepening. He has awakened the sword mastery skill. With newfound confidence, our protagonist asks if she is ready for high combat. Instead of defending, he begins to impose his own rhythm, matching her speed and shocking her. In the blink of an eye, our boy disappears from her sight. She is stunned, unable to find him even with her dynamic vision. Suddenly, he appears beside her with a distorted expression, proclaiming himself the winner of the speed contest. He strikes, and even though Lee blocks the hit, the force throws her back. Regaining her composure, she shouts that she will aim for his blind spot. She changes her attack pattern, but Shaolu utilizes his own dynamic vision, mocks her once more. He blocks the blow easily, leaving her shocked by his sudden leap in strength. While she is distracted, our hero places his blade against her neck. She is paralyzed with shock, unable to believe she lost to a rookie. With great pride, Chelua announces that he is the overall winner of the fight. At the base sponsored by the army for the mercenaries, Chu is satisfied with what he sees. Sergeant Yang whispers to Miss Lee, instructing her to address our protagonist as Chief Chu. She understands but questions why. Yang refers to him as Big Bro. Yang shrugs it off, noting that the relationship is a bit complicated. Turning to Chelu, she asks what he intends to do with the bandits beaten the day before. With a terrifying expression, he claims to have an idea that gives the bandits chills. Hours earlier at the headquarters training field, our boy demanded that Lee call him Big Brother. She retorted that she would rather die than say it. Our protagonist asks if she is talking back to her captain, eventually offering her to give up and call him Big Bro. Even then, our hero continues teasing her. From a distance, the general watches in shock because Chu easily took down the best swordmaster of Joseon. He worries that if his subordinates had witnessed it, their morale would have plummeted. However, the reaction of the soldiers is entirely different. They cheer for our protagonist, leading the general to question whose side they are on. The rest of the bandits are soon presented to the general. His assistant reports that these are all the men captured from the mountain. The general did not expect Hoiljang to gather such a massive crew. Because there are so many, the prison lacks sufficient space to lock them up. The assistant notes they have already executed those who committed serious crimes, but the rest cannot be sent back to Earth due to the presence of biome superhumans in Nova. Unexpectedly, our protagonist suggests he take them in as he needs mercenaries and believes they would be helpful. Chelu claims some must have utility and decides to take only those he likes. Standing in front of them, he shouts to ask if they remember him and offers an opportunity to face him. Those who survive will have the chance to live. With that, he calls for everyone to attack him. At once, Jolu cracks his knuckles while the bandits stand shocked by this violent path to survival. Relying on their numbers, they plan a coordinated assault. Even though they have already imagined their grim fate, soon our protagonist exalts their courage. Only 60 prove brave while many cowards remain. He thanks his new workforce and raises his fist for a bump with the general, calling him by his personal name. The general is stunned by the casual address, shock shared by Lee and the surrounding soldiers. Lee shows visible discomfort, but to her surprise, the general is actually moved to be treated with such familiarity. Returning to current events, our protagonist explains his plan to turn these bandits into a battle-ready tribe. Lee finds the idea odd, reminding him that they are criminals, and that turning them into mercenaries seems impossible. Jinte agrees that it is complicated, wondering if such men can ever be trustworthy. However, Cholu reminds him that the 5 members of the Yongu clan were also gangsters, asserting that trust builds naturally through battle. Jint panics, wondering how he was supposed to know that history. But our hero reminds him that as the vice captain, he is capable of managing it. In front of the bandits at the camp, our boy shouts that their past crimes no longer matter. They are now his mercenaries, and he questions if anyone has a problem with that. The former bandits shout in unison that they have no objection. Captain Choi finds their sudden discipline incredible, but Lee comments that Cholu, already powerful, has now gathered his own flowers, making him even more dangerous. She advises the captain to monitor him closely and report back. A week later, Chelu is reported to the general as a threat to the government. The general finds the accusation outrageous, but the reporter clarifies that the claim comes from Colonel Moran, the same officer who sent Warrant Officer O to capture him. Holding the report, the general realizes she's merely resentful for failing to recruit him. The reporter suggests persuading the government to stay calm, and the general agrees, noting they cannot have the state hunting their mercenaries. He wonders how they will establish legitimacy for Chelu's squad just as soldiers arrive to report on the man's recent actions. They hand over a scroll containing the details. The general worries if our protagonist is already causing trouble, but the report tells a different story. Chelu forced the mercenaries to build a cabin in a single night. Afterward, he began training his squad relentlessly, fighting all 60 mercenaries by himself. He doubled the training for those who hesitated and severely punished anyone who attempted to escape. Through this intensity, the former bandits transformed into something entirely new. The night before the raid, the mercenaries are told to rest, while Chelu retrieves his axe from the forge. Most importantly, he uses a tribal chief emblem, which allows him to create a tribe within a territory. He presses the confirmation button on his system window and names his mercenary squad Ironhead. The tribe capacity is set at 200 members. Everyone congratulates him on finally turning the men into real warriors, but Chelu intends to convert the squad into a full warrior tribe. The general is shocked that our hero obtained the emblem so quickly, knowing the item is usually exclusive to the ranker shop. Captain Choi explains that he earned it as a reward for clearing a new hidden dungeon, which also granted him a world map. The general calls it an incredible reward, noting that the chief emblem makes the group safe from government interference. His assistant adds that the emblem allows the mercenaries to be tracked. If any bandit tries to escape, their location appears on the captain's map. The general believes this is enough to persuade the government and remains curious to see how the upcoming raid unfolds. At night, Chelu decides to set up camp to spend the evening. Lee feels uneasy about facing the raiders again and wonders if she is truly capable of defeating them. Soon our protagonist arrives and asks if she wants to eat, but she claims she has no appetite. He insists she eat well to maintain her energy for battle, leaving her shocked by his apparent concern. No one has ever cared for her in this way, despite her status as the best swordmaster, and she feels a confusing new emotion. For a moment, seeing Chelu reminds her of her mother. However, to her surprise, our protagonist remarks that it is a shame she won't eat and begins consuming her food himself. She realizes he only showed concern to steal her meal. Furious, she tells him to leave her food alone and eat his own, but he has already finished it. Suddenly, our boy stands up as he notices something in the distance. This prompts Lee to question what is happening. Our protagonist says he hears something and grabs his axe. Meanwhile, at the top of a nearby mountain, the raider group faces a pack of monsters. Their leader orders his men to eliminate them all, shouting that the beasts cannot match their speed. He yells for them to show the power of the horseback raiders. The leader is Chunai Kim, known as one of the Big Three. The battle unfolds at the foot of the mountain as raiders clash with green monsters. Their leader scans the chaos, searching for the boss, and once he identifies the target, he eliminates it with a swift strike of his spear. This act secures their victory and he promptly orders his men to regroup. However, he did not foresee that Chiu stands above them on the mountain. Our protagonist shouts the leader's name and confidently declares that he has come to eliminate these people. With a stylish landing, he drops in front of the group. The raider leader questions his identity. So our hero introduces himself and states his intent to kill the man and take his horses as he greatly admires the beasts. The leader remarks that he has heard rumors about him, specifically that he is the one who exterminated the bandits of Mount Oben. He asks the young man to listen, acknowledging that this mission was likely a military order, but he questions why someone as capable as Chaolu would be involved with such people. With a broad smile, our protagonist dismisses the comment as nonsense, insisting he is simply punishing thieves. He leaps toward his target with an axe, but the leader defends himself with a spear and remarks that they are not thieves as they have never stolen from others. While preparing a counterattack, he insists that the horseback raiders are merely explorers. Holding on to the spear, our boy states that this claim is entirely different from the reports he received. He adds that he cannot believe the man based on words alone. On the other hand, Chunai is surprised that Chu can hold the spear with such sheer brute strength. Realizing his opponent is superior, he releases the weapon, thinking that the raiders will be in danger if this battle continues. Our hero places his axe's neck. The leader states that if he does not believe the truth, he may take his head, but warns that doing so would mean taking an innocent life. Shu finds himself in a dilemma. He wonders if he could really be killing an innocent person. He recalls that when he killed Jang, he felt something was off as well, leading him to wonder if he should believe the man or not. He needs certainty that his actions are right. Just then, Lee arrives with the mercenaries. She shouts at our protagonist for coming alone, and acting recklessly though, she comments that he at least managed to capture the traitor. Our boy tells her to wait, because he wants to confirm the situation. He demands an explanation regarding the horseback raiders. Lee becomes slightly uneasy, but admits that if she is not mistaken, they are considered dangerous. She states that Chunai is a traitor who was once a soldier like others, but had frequent disagreements with Chief Park regarding the future of Neo's soul. Eventually, the Kim left the army and formed an organization that opposed the military, making them the government's primary target for extermination. Our hero asks if this means they are dangerous, but not actually thieves. She explains they have a bad reputation, but nothing official has been recorded, nor has any damage been reported. However, Kim possesses insider knowledge about the military, which makes him a threat. Kim calls out to Lee, asserting they have never misused information or attacked Neo's soul, and he asks her not to turn a blind eye to the truth. Observing the exchange, Chelu thinks it is unexpected that Kim remains extremely calm, even with his life hanging by a thread. Kim then questions whether our protagonist has finished judging him, and if he will finally take his head. He adds that if his death proves his innocence, he only asks that his men be spared. Our hero is surprised that Kim would offer his life for his subordinates. Making a final decision, he declares that he will not kill him. Major Lee is shocked by this choice, but our protagonist explains that since they are not bandits, killing them would make him no different from Jang. However, he refuses to return empty-handed and demands to know where to find horses in exchange for their lives. Kim chuckles, remarking that our boy truly knows how to get what he wants. He agrees and provides a crucial piece of information. He explains that Neosol horses cannot be tamed easily like those on land. The only way is to obtain a pet pouch, which allows one to keep the creatures of Nova. He shows the red-rooted pots, the first ingredient needed to craft the item. When Chelu asks where to find it, Kim responds that the task will not be easy. Soon our protagonist reaches the lair of ogres and spots one walking ahead. He reflects that he has never faced an ogre this large before, but he becomes excited and charges the beast with his axe. He attacks, yet the ogre easily deflects the blow. He attacks, yet the creature swings its club, and the force is so immense that even after our hero dodges, the weapon smashes through trees. He recognizes the strength of the monster just as it lands a punch on his stomach, sending him flying back. Using his axe, he saves himself by embedding it into the ground. He then activates Ogre's skin. After experiencing that powerful blow, our boy acknowledges the strength of Kim's group, who managed to defeat such creatures alone. The ogre starts swinging its club again, but Sheldu easily evades each attack. At that moment, our hero focuses on his axe, which begins to emit an overwhelming aura. He strikes the club with his glowing weapon and is pleased that the result is even better than he imagined. A day earlier, the blacksmith had used his guardian staff to upgrade the axe, and our protagonist had wondered if the weapon gained any special abilities. The blacksmith informed him that it was now imbued with magic, explaining why his attacks had become so much more powerful. Now, named the axe imbued with Guardian's power, the weapon has turned red due to the magic. With this tool, both attacking and defending have become easier. When he uses weapon magic, he can interrupt an opponent's movement by harnessing the rotational force generated by parrying. He applies even more power and successfully eliminates the ogre, proving that even an ogre's skin stands no chance against it. After its death, the ogre drops an orb. Chelu grabs it. The system identifies it as an ability orb of the ogre. It allows the user to perform one of the creature's special skills. Excited, our protagonist crushes the orb and acquires the ogre's strength ability, allowing him to exert the power of a giant Sen's species with the aid of magic. Jinta stands inside Mimic's cave, surrounded by countless treasures and chests. The cavern also contains the raw materials required to craft a mascot pouch. The group members ask their sub-captain if they should open all the treasures present, but he explains that they must be careful. Out of every 10 chests, 9 are actually mimics. They do not take his explanation seriously, which leaves Gentai feeling somewhat frustrated. He thinks to himself that someone braver should have come in his place. He recalls a conversation with Shu, where our protagonist decided to hunt the ogre alone and split their forces. Gent had asked if Lee would enter the cave, but she refused directly. She added that there is no reason for the army to help them while their mission is on pause, deciding instead to return and deliver a report to the general. Listening to this memory, Genti feels a bit scared at the thought of being there alone. However, our boy reminded him that he is the sub-captain and would be fine. Chu encouraged, noting that if he guides the team well, the cave will be a piece of cake. This encouragement gave Jinta the confidence to take on this important task. Back in the present, Ginte commands his soldiers with great fighting spirit. He has devised a plan where the vanguard identifies the real treasure chests, while the archers destroy the fakes. With that, he yells at his soldiers to begin their search. By evening, Kim orders them to set up camp and wait for their mercenaries. Later, Kim observes the sight from above with a companion. The companion asks if he is okay after so easily giving away information about the horses, noting that if the military discovers how they are tamed, they will be in danger. Kim comments that they will simply have to find another way to become stronger. He believes the horses are not something they can monopoly forever, as others will eventually figure it out. The companion also notes that even if others learn the method, the materials are not easy to obtain, especially those from the ogre. Kim asks if his companion truly believes that, but he has a feeling that our hero will find no difficulty at all. After Tafal, Chaolu arrives at the camp along with Ginte. Kim approaches and asks if he has gathered everything. Our protagonist replies that it would have taken a long time otherwise, so they split up to reduce the duration. They then display the items. Gentai has collected a considerable amount, and pots has also been gathered in large quantities by Cholu, leaving everyone astonished. In a flashback, our boy received potsi as soon as he defeated the ogre. Therefore, he decided to defeat as many as possible to obtain a high yield. Back in the present, Kim curiously asks what his secret is for acquiring so many. Our hero reveals that there is no secret. He simply exterminated the ogres and collected the items. Kim asks if he did it alone. When Yahello confirms this, Kim is completely shocked. Later, a large pot sits on the fire. Checking his system, our protagonist notes that the abandoned alchemist lab within the system can create pet pouches. This is new to Cholu, and the horseback raiders have only just discovered this lab. Kim explains that this is how things happen in the unknown world of Nova, where information is power. Those who prioritized exploration made discoveries first. He then instructs our boy to craft his pouch. Yahello throws the necessary materials, which cost 78 coins to combine. After a short time, he opens the pouch, which releases a cloud of smoke. The system notifies him that the pet pouch has been created and added to his inventory. Our hero picks up the pouch, feeling super excited. He tells Ginte to handle the rest of the ingredients, as he intends to fetch a horse at dawn. Later, they sit down for dinner, drinking water from a rum container. Kim smiles, pointing out that Chu drinks water as if he is drinking rum. However, Ginte reveals that they cannot drink alcohol because they are underage, leaving Kim stunned. Gintai then asks why Kim abandoned the military. With a serious expression, Kim states that he simply had different priorities. The current chief park focused on the security and property of Neo Soul, while Kim insisted on exploring the soul of the city to make them stronger. In the end, they could not overcome their differences, and that is why he left. Gentai asks if he regrets it, but Kim comments that he still thinks the same way, stating that he protects the country in his own way. He explains that while Neo Soul prioritizes development, his group takes care of external threats while exploring. He believes that if Neo Soul has no power, it will eventually fall to bandits. Jinty points out the connections between the military, the bandits, and the horseback raiders, and Kim nods in confirmation. While eating, our protagonist asks if Kim is bothered by this since he is a real soldier, pointing out that the military is trying to kill him. Kim comments that one day they will understand. He then gets up to leave because he has a long journey ahead the day after tomorrow. Outside the tent, he unexpectedly spots Lee under a cloak and is surprised to see her there. She says she came because she has something to ask, questioning why he let her win that day. He comments that if they had both fought, it would have resulted in multiple injuries, weakening the military force of Neo Soul. In disbelief, she tells him to stop talking nonsense. Kim replies that Neo Soul needs a figure of authority whom external forces fear to touch. Lee remarks it would have been better if he had stayed, but Kim asks if she heard him, stating he has his own responsibilities. He advises her not to show her weaknesses since she is the best swordmaster protecting the citizens. Day breaks and the group stands before the fields where several horses graze. Kim states they are stronger and have superior endurance if given pots roots and treated well. Eventually they grow close, and by forming a bond, their magical energy expands. Understands why they need so many roots. However, our boy seems slightly bothered. No matter how much he looks, they seem simple to him. After observing more closely, Chelu sees a black and white horse with horns, the king of the plains, the iron-striped horse. It quickly catches his attention. Jinte comments that it is larger than the others, but Kim explains that it is a problematic, untamable monster. This untamable beast only excites our hero even more. Even when Kim insists that the creature is a monster rather than a horse, Chelu ignores him and dashes forward, declaring that nothing is impossible. The horned beast notices his approach. Our protagonist remarks that he will enjoy this fight and demands the monster become his pet. The horse squeals in defiance, clearly disliking him. Chelu wonders if the creature simply has a personal problem with him. Since a peaceful solution seems unlikely, he lunges at the monster with a powerful strike. He grabs the horns and seats himself on its back. Though the horse tries desperately to buck him off, Recognizing its strength, our hero lands a decisive blow on the monster's head. With a submissive look, the beast finally understands the message. Shelu repeats his demand, warning that it must become his pet or face the consequences. The horse begins to tear up. A system window appears, offering to register the iron-striped horse as a pet for the cost of 15 to 20 coins. Later, Genti is seen happily stroking his own tamed horse, which seems to enjoy the affection. Chu appears and asks if that is the beast. Ginte nods, revealing his only cost 270 coins. Our boy finds this incredibly cheap since his own cost over 1,000. Gintai explains it is because Kaolu tamed a Heil beast, then asks what he plans to name it. Our protagonist already has a name in mind. Systemo Finto confirms the name Sonata for the rank B iron-striped horse, which possesses running and headbutting skills. Furthermore, the creature will not disappear if the owner falls and is even capable of revival. Chelu then suggests that Jinte name his horse Abante. The group rides together through the desert landscape. Kim comments on the taming process, noting that perhaps other types of beasts can be tamed as well. He turns to Chelu and remarks that since he managed to tame such a creature, he seems to be full of surprises. Our hero thanks him for revealing the pet pouch trick. With the task finished, Kim decides to leave the group, as his goal lies beyond the border. Chelu wonders if the dark spots on the map are locked off. Kim nods, suggesting that if this place functions like a game, there must be a way to unlock them. When Shaolu asks if he has a plan, Kim reveals his intent to take down the area bosses. Hearing this, our boy mentions he already eliminated one during his Nova exam. This raises questions about the safety of sharing such information. Shielu asks if it is wise to share these details, since they could become the first to conquer the zones. Kim laughs, stating he does not care about such things. He only wants to keep their homeland safe. Our protagonist finds Kim's beliefs incredibly strong, and notes that people him are rare. Kim prepares to head out, but Sheldu stops him to offer him a spot in his squad. After a brief pause, Kim shakes his head and explains he has people depending on him. Shielu respects the decision and tells Kim he is always welcome if he changes his mind. Deep down, he expects that answer but accepts he cannot change it. The raiders leave the area to begin their journey, and our hero orders his own squad to head back to Neo Seoul. Later, Chikelu and Gint report back to the general. The general demands an explanation as to why they are refusing the raiders' attack mission. Chelu explains that Kim is an innocent man, and he refuses to eliminate him by acting like an assassin. The general remarks that our protagonist cannot make such decisions on his own, but Chelu insists that they can. He compares Kim to a newborn baby to illustrate his innocence. He asks the general if he would follow in order to take down an infant. The general becomes confused, so our hero explains further that Kim is a pure adventurer rather than a villain. He claims Kim is no different than a child in terms of innocence, and asserts that he knows the man better than anyone. The old man eventually agrees, admitting that Kim is a nice guy. In fact, the general had been hesitating and postponing pressure from top management to eliminate him. Our protagonist points out that the general is finally being honest. The general admits to being a coward and suggests he tried to alleviate his own guilt by assigning the task to Cholu. He understands the reluctance because Kim is a decent person. Our boy mentions he tried to recruit Kim, but the man refused. General Park describes Kim as someone worth having, but notes his strong rebellious attitude is something no ordinary leader could handle. Cholu reflects that he still has a long way to go. The general asks if they are hungry, and Cholu notes it is nearly time to eat. Asks if soup will be served, but the general knows a simple soup will not satisfy him. He announces a proper meal has been prepared. Ginte gets excited as the general explains they deserve a real feast. He then offers them a drink, but Gent points out they are still underage. General counters that the new year has begun on Earth, making them adults, and insists they should have their first drink. However, our hero declines, wishing to have his first drink with his grandfather back on Earth, though he remains eager for the food. The next day, Chelu and Jinte head out alone, leaving their squad behind. Ginte is worried about this arrangement, but our protagonist is carefree, noting he can simply punish anyone who tries to escape later. Still, Ginte believes they need someone to keep the troops in line and train them. They are soon spotted by General Park. The general examines their horses and learns their names are Sonata and Abante. He dislikes the names and suggests Grand instead, but boys find an idea terrible. Dropping the jokes, the general reveals he is also returning to Earth. He is not going back for family, but because he has been summoned due to Earth being in trouble. He was stuck in Nova because the portals only open every 5 days. Chelu asks about the nature of the trouble. Although he is not supposed to reveal anything, the general explains that Korea is in a state of chaos. A coup has occurred in North Korea, led by Goryeo General Seok Lee, who claims to be from Nova. As a result, the entire public now knows that Nova exists. Colonel Moran appears worried, while Warrant Officer Janu Oh remains calm. She remarks that the coup in North Korea means the existence of planet Nova will be revealed to the entire world. Expecting a massive influx of people, O asks to be sent back to Neo Sol. But the Colonel is not pleased. She has already stationed him on Earth to round up draft dodging Novas and cannot risk their base in his absence. Furthermore, she is concerned about Director Park, whose recent suspicious behavior makes her fear a potential coup in South Korea as well. O questions her suspicions regarding Director Park and highlights the man's contributions to Neo Sol. He adds that Chu has also proven his worth through his actions. The Colonel wonders why O trusts Chu so implicitly, sensing he has a special reason for taking his side. Internally, O reflects that there is no hidden motive. In the past, he and Choi all the monsters in the East to protect the citizens of Nova, earning them both the gratitude of General Park. Before being assigned to hunt deserters, O was a man who sought strength to create a free world. He constantly tested himself because he loved Nova. Back in the present, the Colonel ends the discussion by refusing to send him back, insisting they focus on national security. Knowing he belongs to Nova rather than the military, O immediately places his resignation letter on the table. Moran is stunned that he would leave at such a critical time. O states that while national power must be solidified, he believes that power depends on how well a country utilizes Nova. He claims to know the right man who holds the key to it all. Meanwhile, Chelu arrives on Earth. In a car driven by the former thug lady, our protagonist points out that she should not call him Big Brother since she is older than him. Ginte asks how their allies knew exactly when they would emerge from the portal. One member explains that they waited at the portal just in case, though number one had already predicted their arrival. Our hero is satisfied with this, then asks about the new business number one opened. The lady chuckles, noting that the company name is a surprise for their leader. They eventually arrive at the new establishment titled Cholu Solution. Inside, number one greets Chelu respectfully. Our protagonist appears confident, but questions the name, remarking that it sounds like they are thighs. Not to mention the office is located close to his home. Number one immediately apologizes. However, our hero clarifies that only his grandfather would dislike it because the old man hates thugs. Number one finally realizes why his men were constantly being kicked out of the area. Chelu asks if his grandfather is present, and number one nods before receiving praise for hiring 20 employees. As number one bows, in gratitude, O steps inside with a curious expression, asking if this is a gathering of gangsters. Surprised, our hero recognizes him as the soldier he fought previously and notices his arm has completely healed. Seeing the crowd of men, O wonders if this is a gang, but Cholu explains they are mercenaries. O remarks on how much the squad has grown. Our protagonist then offers him a position in the group. O is surprised by the sudden proposal, but Chelu says they both know why he is here. Commenting on the boy's sharpness, O shakes his hand and feels just how much stronger Chelu has become. Our hero already needed someone to keep the mercenaries in shape. When O questions how he could offer a job to someone he barely knows, Chelu replies that he can tell he is a good soldier. O finally reveals he is no longer in the military and accepts the role of training the mercenaries. After they reintroduce themselves, O departs, promising to meet again in Neo Sol. Later, Chelu's grandfather serves a massive pot of soup. He advises our protagonist to find a safer place to stay, since Earth is in chaos. Jinte explains that it is the new year, and a soldier friend assured them there is no risk of war, but the grandfather still believes there are better places to celebrate. Jinte is overwhelmed by the size of the meal, but the proud grandfather boasts about his grandson's ability to put away large portions of food. Gramps asks if the boys have officially become adults, now that they are asking for alcohol. Our protagonist happily announces that he wants his first drink to be with his old man. He recalls the Barbarian ceremony where those who turn 18 are declared true warriors through special ritual. Chelus wonders if he can be reborn as a true barbarian now, though he decides he might not be ready yet. As he prepares to drink, the elder instructs him to use both hands and bow slightly as a sign of respect. Chelu acknowledges the tradition. The grandfather then asks Gintai if he is going home. Gintai explains that he is an illegitimate son with no family record, sharing a story that reveals his vulnerability. Chelu immediately asks if Gintai wants him to take care of his family, causing Gintai to panic and call him a lunatic. Gramps offers Gintai a drink and welcomes him, stating that any friend of Chelu is like a grandson to him. They all toast to their new adulthood. The next morning, Jinta feels nauseous from overeating and suggests they rest. However, our hero has already digested his food and insists they return to Nova. At the portal, they find a crowd of soldiers and civilians. Gintai explains that people are gathering to be tested now that Nova is public knowledge. Our protagonist worries about his grandfather, who would need to participate in the test, despite his delicate health and age. Jinte agrees it would be difficult, but our hero is determined to find a way to bring his grandfather along. Later at the Neo Sol headquarters, General Park proposes a formal alliance. With the frontier open, competition between nations is intensifying. The general argues for a contract between the army, mercenaries, and other groups to lead the exploration. Chelu signs the document without hesitation. The general comments that he could be easily deceived, but Chelu guarantees there is no cheating between friends. The general warns that South Korea is still catching up to nations that got a head start. When our protagonist asks who is ahead, Park points to Japan. Our hero suggests they must quickly expand the map to catch up technologically, proposing that defeating field bosses is the way forward. The general is surprised and asks if he is referring to the Cyclops. Jolu is excited to find the military already knows its location. The general reveals that military intelligence led by Captain Choi and Sergeant Yang Susu has already pinpointed the enemy. Our hero is fired up for the mission and the general confirms that the stage is prepared for action. After receiving the proposal to attack with full force, Childu is determined to take Cyclops' head in a single clean strike. Junhwan-woo is introduced as the new sub-leader of the operations unit and receives a warm welcome from the soldiers. While some appear relieved by his arrival, others are curious about the man who will be leading them. Junhan greets the troops and formally introduces himself. Our hero then gives Jinte an order to remain in charge of housekeeping as usual, explaining that they are now operating under a dual sublier system. When Junhwano asks Kyolu about the specific planning of unit operations, our protagonist demonstrates a classic bout of laziness and a total lack of initiative. The newly appointed sub-leader is surprised, questioning the reason for this choice and appearing somewhat insecure about his own capabilities. However, our hero advises Junhwan to make his own decisions, showing that he trusts the new sub-leader instincts implicitly. Accepting the responsibility, Junon decides to reorganize the entire unit structure. Despite his relaxed appearance, he clearly has a plan. With a mischievous smile, he initiates the changes, claiming the upcoming journey will range from subduing fields to hellish training. Seeing his attitude, the soldiers begin to fear that things are about to get much worse. The scene shifts to a night street in Osaka, Japan. A young man wearing glasses and headphones looks exhausted, commenting on how intense everything has become. Suddenly, a woman bumps into him, pleading for help, which only annoys him. He soon notices a crowd of people running in the opposite direction, screaming in terror. Another man runs past desperately, warning him to escape. Suddenly, terrifying goblins with glowing red eyes invade the streets, triggering a wave of panic. The young man observes the frightening scene in shock. A blue system screen appears with a message: Doomsday Exam. The mission is to clear the area, collect goblin coins, and escape to Nova. 5 days later at Neosol headquarters, the general and his assistant discussed the opening of the portals and the goblin outbreak in Japan. The Japanese government has declared a state of emergency in Osaka, yet they are keeping the details concealed. Park feels frustrated, pointing out that Japan is viewing this disaster as an opportunity. He notes that since the arrival of the apocalypse, countries have been competing to colonize Nova, and Japan likely sees this as a way to train new Novas. The assistant predicts that the population in Nova will increase, and Park realizes Japan is planning to gain the upper hand in colonization. However, he remains concerned about how they managed to open the portal. He then asks for a status update on our hero. The assistant reports that Captain Choi and Sergeant Kai left yesterday and should reach their destination tonight. Meanwhile, the mercenaries are marching with firm synchronized steps. Junhwan orders them to stay in line, causing one embarrassed soldier to apologize. Another soldier murmurs that Captain Junon-o is far smarter than their leader. While Chelu just beats them, the captain uses mental torture, which feels much worse. Choi comes on how the mercenary corps has stricter discipline than the army and addresses Junhwan as Officer O. Junhwan makes it clear that he is retired and insists on being called by his name. Choi asks why he returned to the field after promising never to come back to Neo Seoul. Jun remarks that while he thought wearing civilian clothes to beat up deserters would be fun, the novelty wore off. When Choi asks if he joined the mercenaries because he was tired of General Park's theatrics, Junhwan admits that was part of the reason. Choi notes that our protagonist seems to have motivated him. Soldiers yell at one another to walk straight to avoid being scolded by the sub-leader. Junhwan reveals that the unit was a mess when he arrived, so he needed to step up. He admits that life in the mercenary corps is actually quite fun, wondering if he was ever this proactive during his military service. Choi is happy to see his growth and glances towards Sheldu, noting that he really is a good guy. Right then, our protagonist orders the group to halt and declares they will camp there for the night. Later, inside a tent, our boy calls the representatives to discuss the plan while they analyze the map. Chaolu points out that they will reach the target before dawn. Captain Choi briefs them that hunting an area boss is similar to a dungeon game. The target forest is divided into centrals and external parts protected by ogres and elves. Chialdu suggests a direct charge, but the captain shakes his head, revealing there are over 100 nulls. Furthermore, a countdown begins the moment they step into the forest. Choi explains that the mission requires victory within a specific time limit, or the explorers will be teleported out just like a game. Our hero focuses on a quick strategy, remains super excited to hunt the Cyclops. At dawn, the squad reaches the location as the system announces the event and starts a 30-minute countdown. Jinte leads the main unit in an ambush on the left side of the forest, using the difficult terrain to their advantage. The combat is intense and the soldiers soon meet the relentless NLCS. According to the plan, the main group and Sergeant Yongsu's team takes over to tackle the NLCS with arrows. Once the Ls are distracted, the third group moves toward the central forest where the ogres wait. Two giant ogres appear. Choi and Junwan prepare for the confrontation, with Choi admitting it is his first time facing such beasts. Junwan bets on who can take down the most ogres, and the two face the monsters fiercely. Meanwhile, our boy rushes through the gorge on Sonata, with only 20 minutes estimated to reach the target. He increases his speed. Suddenly, our protagonist learns the iron-striped horse skill, which activates automatically. As he eliminates ogres in his path, the system announces he has also obtained the mounted combat skill. Chalu hurries, reaching the center of the forest with only 2 minutes and 30 seconds remaining. He notices the boss is not visible, but upon touching tree he realizes it is a type of holy ground. The tree shines brilliantly, emitting immense energy. A window explains that this is the world tree, which will test our protagonist's qualifications. A whirlwind of energy arises and a colossal imposing monster emerges from the whirlpool. The boss finally reveals itself. It is the Cyclops. Chelu is impressed as he observes his massive enemy. The Cyclops strikes hard and breaks apart the ground. Chelu notes that the range of the attack is wide and threatening, so he counters the blow with his axe. Their weapons collide, and our hero soon realizes that despite efforts, the giant remains unimpressed. Since his attacks are not affecting the monster, he questions if its massive body is the cause. He reflects that there is no point fighting from a distance against such a long weapon. Determined, our protagonist decides to close the distance and aim for its legs. He launches a powerful attack and hits the enemy squarely, yet it remains intact. He observes that he only left a small scratch on the rocky surface of its leg. Our boy realizes it is not that the creature has tough ogre skin, but rather it is simply too huge to take proper damage. Recognizing the difficulty of the battle, he changes his strategy to utilize endless swings. Chelu starts landing consistent blows. The giant stays still while our hero remarks that hitting someone up close is impossible with such a long weapon. Soon the giant roars and prepares to smash him with its foot. Fortunately, Chelu dodges the attack and lands another powerful blow, causing the giant to roar in pain. He smiles and boasts about his axe skills. Even while roaring, the Cyclops moves its eye to aim at our protagonist and unleashes a powerful beam. He is barely able to dodge the attack as he jumps back to save himself. Our hero coughs from exhaustion, now viewing the giant as a beast that was hiding its true power. A digital screen appears displaying a timeout timer, informing him that only 5 minutes remain. This is alarming for Chu. Cho and Junwan reach the battlefield after hearing the explosions. Suddenly, the giant unleashes another attack, and the soldiers are shocked by the creature's strength. Our boy orders them to aim for its leg since he has already succeeded in scratching it, and he decides to distract the creature himself. Both men instantly take down the giant's legs. In the meantime, Chelu notes that while the beam can kill him, it is not invincible. Our protagonist notices a pattern where shots take place at regular intervals. He jumps and jokes that the giant should be guarding the forest instead of destroying it. Meanwhile, the screen shows that only 1 minute and 47 seconds remain. Noting the limited time, our hero rejects the idea of swinging aimlessly. Choi informs him that they have successfully taken care of the legs. After praising their work, our boy calls his horse. The timer indicates that only 29 seconds remain. Chelu thinks there is only one way to deal with the situation. A flashback of his younger self appears, showing him lost and disoriented. He recalls the death of his parents and how his inner self stopped growing after their passing. Dark emotions settled inside him then, but thinking of that, now he decides to come out of his box. He now has friends and comrades to protect. Therefore, he wants to grow out of his grief for the sake of those close to him. With a serious expression, our protagonist remains focused on his goal. He swings his axe, reflecting internally that through inner realm discipline, he has realized a truth he could only perceive through his younger self. Sonata arrives at full speed and Chelu mounts up. The timer shows only 10 seconds. In that final window, our hero jumps from his horse and focuses every bit of his power on one spot. In the last 2 seconds, he used Ogre's power and lands an intense blow. At last, the Cyclops is destroyed. The system announces the victory and the tree of protection evolves into the tree of guardianship. Gent appears and celebrates the success. Area C442 now belongs to Earth and is open for new settlers as the protected mist has been lifted. Chelu praises everyone for their hard work. They now know that taking down area bosses breaks the boundaries. Furthermore, he has obtained the giant's weapon, the Cyclops' halberd. A new mission is presented. Nova's world is vast and new areas must be explored. Our protagonist is surprised by the task. Another goal appears on the screen with an objective to tame a mount, offering a reward so new recruits can ride horses. Sheldu feels a bit regretful that everyone can now learn this skill. Gent points out that this procedure is different from the horseback raiders method, which does not come from the proper Nova system. Our boy shrugs it off with a laugh and decides to turn his mercenary squad into cavalry. However, Junon argues that military diversity is important and the army must be prepared for any situation. Our hero shows irritation with the constant complaints and feels the reward is unsatisfactory for their hard work. Suddenly, the world tree shines brightly and a portal appears. The group is confused, wondering if another Cyclops is emerging. Instead, a huge monstrous foot steps out. A smiling goblin appears with a bag full of coins. He announces that they should come forward and choose what they want, as he does not appear often. Kyodo and Ginte are filled with excitement as they realize he is the goblin merchant. Someone calls for the president while he sits at his desk. He learns that the Japanese government has proposed an astronomical sum for the exchange of information regarding the Nova portal appearing there. The president sighs heavily, feeling there is no choice but to pay the steep price, and orders his advisor to initiate negotiations. However, the advisor reveals they cannot proceed, informing him that South Korea has been excluded from the talks. The president hits the table and shouts, asking how this is possible, and wondering if they are being completely ignored. According to the Japanese embassy, the country will only be open for discussions in the summer. The president complains that summer is half a year away, which is equivalent to 3 long years in Nova's time. Irritated, he points out that the Japanese are clearly thrilled to have the upper hand in this power struggle. At that moment, the advisor's smartphone receives a message. He apologizes and turns to switch off the device, but he freezes upon reading the notification. Surprised, he shouts to the president that something has happened. When the president asks for clarification, the advisor explains that a portal has just appeared in Pooh along with an emergence of goblins. It is official. Korea has a new Nova portal. Shocked by the news, the president soon becomes overjoyed. The advisor also smiles, excitedly showing his phone. While the president remarks that this is great, he quickly regains his composure and reminds the advisor that this is no time for celebration as the PJU portal is dangerously close to the capital. Embarrassed, the advisor apologizes and offers to call an emergency meeting. The president asks him to wait, mentioning one more task. He must immediately call Neosol's Major General Park John-pil. The scene shifts to a location in Nova, where a system message announces that Area C4442 is now recognized as Earth's territory. New settlers will be accepted, and the protective fog has been lifted. Kim and his squad observe the changes. Kim wonders if the barrier has collapsed, while others yell that the blue mist is fading away. One soldier points out that someone must have defeated the area boss. Kim gives a knowing smile, remarking that he knows who is responsible. He believes the hunt was a success thanks to Cho Lukang. Inside Neosol headquarters, celebrations begin because defeating the Cyclops was the key to progress. Facing a blue notification, General Park discovers that Area C4442 now belongs to Earth. This means the portal will soon open. He immediately stands, stating there is no time to waste, as the area will soon resemble Osaka, necessitating quick preparation. Suddenly, Captain bursts in. The general enthusiastically asks if he has checked the screen. But the captain has more urgent news. The president is calling regarding the opening of the Pooh portal. The general must prepare to return to Earth immediately. Surprised, the old man prepares to leave, joking that he should use the fastest portal to reach Seoul. When the captain mentions no such portal exists, the general laughs, revealing it was only a joke. Back in the newly gained area, the merchant goblin states that this is a rare opportunity. A system interface appears in front of the creature, displaying a sale list of colorful scrolls in red, green, blue, purple, and yellow. Shiolu interacts with the options, finding the red and green talismans particularly interesting. The screen describes the red talisman as a scroll of breakthrough, which increases status limits for 200 goblin coins. Our protagonist realizes he can increase his attributes even further. Thinking of the possibilities, he decides to buy 10 of each color. Gent panics, shouting that this is crazy since Chelu will spend his entire fortune. With a confident smile, our hero says he will try to reach 100 stats. Noting that getting stronger is fun, he quickly presses the button to complete the purchase. The next step is distributing the status stones scattered on the ground. Choi suggests that our protagonist take them all to max out his limits, explaining that after hitting the 50 mark, he can become a ranker. When Chelu wonders about the point of becoming a ranker, Choi explains it allows one to measure their strength rate. He secretly reveals he is ranked 93rd in perception. Finding this ranking weak, our hero reacts with surprise. Choi asks him to keep it a secret. Confused, Chaelu asks how Ka1 knows their ranking without direct competition. Choi explains that upon becoming a ranker, one can compete on the ranking grounds where the system automatically ranks them. Our protagonist is shocked he didn't know this sooner. Regretful but eager, he grabs a blue stone. The system reports he has used 2 status stones, bringing his strength to 43, dexterity to 35, stamina to 50, perception to 38, and magic to 9. With 50 vital points, the system announces his transportation to the ranking grounds. Cholu is ready and excited to see the new place. Arriving at a vast white expanse, he looks around, wonders if this is truly the ranking grounds. A notification appears for a stamina test, asking him to run at full speed. Our boy finds the instruction strange, but notices the ground forming as he advances. As he runs, the system measures his speed at 3.4 kilometers per hour. Carrying out the task, our protagonist thinks this is simpler than expected. He exerts himself and begins to sprint, believing that simplicity is his greatest strength. He is determined to run until his lungs explode. The scene changes to the Japanese Prime Minister's office. A subordinate enthusiastically reports that Sato Special Forces have decided to defeat the next area boss. The Prime Minister celebrates and orders the intelligence rate to be increased 5-fold to consolidate Japanese leadership in Nova. Suddenly, someone runs in reporting a major problem. The Prime Minister questions the interruption, but the man points to a screen showing the news. A portal has opened in Korea, leaving the Japanese leader dumbfounded. The broadcast shows a Korean news brief intending to share information as a moral obligation for global cooperation. This move undermines Japanese plans. The Prime Minister trembles in anger, yelling that Korea has even revealed information about the portal's opening. He questions how they managed to defeat the area boss, while his advisor wonders if they trained a secret weapon. The Prime Minister furiously orders the advisor to identify this person immediately. In the meantime, General Park declares that the Republic of Korea has officially started the era of dimensional exploration. Later, the Korean president claps and congratulates Director Park, praising him for a remarkable achievement. The president mentions plans to establish a Nova army and asks Park to oversee its formation at army headquarters. Park humbly declines, stating he is happy in his current position. The president smiles, considering him a modest man, but suggests that since Neo Seoul has an established system, someone else can take over while Park is needed for a larger role. After a pause, Park asks to be sent to Cheongju to transform it into the hub of Korea's portal network. The president agrees, believing no one would do better, and elevates his title to Lieutenant General Park, placing the Cheongju portal in his hands. Back in Nova, a system window appears showing that the measurement is complete with 2,512 points. The system announces that Yahello has earned first place. Our hero laughs confidently and receives 25 points to use in the ranker store. Genta runs to him to ask how it went. Yahello naturally responds that he arrived first, leaving the others surprised. Choi finds the news incredible and asks if he earned many points. Our protagonist proudly confirms he received 25 points. Choi is in despair as he calculates the scale of the achievement, while Junan asks if he has bought anything with the points. Cholu shakes his head, revealing he only expanded his inventory for now. He asks if anyone become a ranker across all stats yet. Junhwan replies that he doesn't know, as people usually prioritize specific attributes for the rating store. Hearing this, our hero becomes excited and decides to aim for that goal, hoping for a first-time reward. Gentai asks if the group plans to hunt further before returning. Chella replies that they still have plenty of supplies, and it would be a shame to leave now. The goal is to tame a mount and earn the specific inventory reward. He orders Junwan to take the mercenary group to look for horses while he stays with Sonata. Noting that the border has collapsed, our protagonist decides to see what lies ahead. A few days pass near a portal as people gather to say goodbye to General Park. Park laments his departure. Feeling the weight of leaving his post, he asks Captain An if the transfer was completed correctly, and the captain confirms that Lieutenant Colonel Gunsu Kim will handle the transition. The general complains that the colonel has barely left his home and likely knows nothing of the local landscape. Turning to the lieutenant colonel, Park asks him to take good care of the new commander upon his arrival. The colonel merely murmurs that he will figure it out, but as he watches the general leave, he mutters that Park won't be around to see the outcome anyway. Across the courtyard, someone runs toward the colony. Lee suddenly appears and collides forcefully with the colonel, throwing him back into an awkward fall on the floor. She turns around with a mischievous smile, claiming she didn't see him, though the colonel realizes she did it on purpose. Seeing her, Park comments that he didn't expect a visit before his departure. She explains she ran back as soon as she heard the news and asks about his sudden transfer to Cheongju. The general responds that things are simply moving fast. Lee asks him to take them along, citing a constant lack of staff, but he explains that orders from above prevent the transfer of key personnel. He notes that Neo Soul needs them, and reminds her that he is no longer the major general in charge. Sighing, Lee accepts the situation. She asks what kind of person the new commander of Neo Soul will be. Just as a figure emerges from the portal, the newcomer comments that Neo Soul looks like a shabby place. Everyone watches in shock as the man appears wearing nothing but his underwear. This man is the new commander, General Jin Lim. The scene changes to Chelu and Jinte entering a Neo Soul area on horseback. The system notifies them that they have left the existing area C442. As they arrive in a region covered in snow, the system announces their entry into area W3105. Hiro wonders if this is the third area of exploration and notes the drastic change in seasons. Chelu complains about the biting cold while Gintai trembles beside him. Their journey has been grueling. They traveled through dry lands that made their skin peel, followed by a humid region of non-stop rain. Each map possesses unique characteristics, and even the monsters vary from one location to another. Genta reflects that the world is too vast for them to continue exploring indefinitely. Our protagonist remarks that if they explore far enough, they will find a new portal connecting to a different continent. Gent calls it a bold theory, but asks what our boy is doing as he sees him rubbing his hands together. With a serious look, Kelu reveals he is trying to warm himself. Suddenly, he begins to shake violently as the cold of the snowy region finally hits him hard. Jint laughs, noting that even Ogre's skin seems useless against this chill. Struggling with the temperature, Chelu suggests they head back, believing the mercenary group must have already finished their mission. Gentai agrees, noting they need to be better prepared next time. As they retreat, our protagonist decides to ask General Park to prepare winter supplies for the next expedition. The scene shifts back to Neo Soul, where workers move heavy materials. They discuss the high cost of the items and the need to handle them with care. Lee reflects that barely 10 days have passed, yet the place has already changed. Many workers rush to move materials to the back because a golf course is being built. Woojin stands nearby, clearly angry and yelling at someone. Carrying heavy wood, the workers complain about being paid pittance to build a golf course while missing their previous boss. At a nearby stall, a man complains about skyrocketing prices. The seller defends himself, saying he needs to make a living, but the construction has caused extreme scarcity. The new general is turning Neo Soul into a luxury bunker for himself, leaving Lee to wonder if this will actually protect the citizens. Suddenly, someone calls out to her with news that our hero's squad has finally returned. She realizes things are about to get complicated. Through the dust, the riders emerge. Sheldu is in pure shock, shouting desperately and asking where their house went. He demands to know who had the audacity to demolish his home and calls for Jumpil to appear immediately. Lee informs him that Lieutenant General Park Jumpil has been sent elsewhere. The Sergeant Captain Choi are stunned, asking who is now in charge. Lee reveals that General Wanjin Lim is the new commander, and that he is waiting for them. Gritting his teeth, Chu grows furious because they messed with his property. Our hero calls his mercenaries together and orders everyone to march straight to the central government office. Mounted on their horses, the mercenaries advance, shouting that they will get their home back. At the headquarters, the general asks Kim if preparations are finished to face Chu. The colonel confirms that they have gathered more than 600 men, including armed soldiers, reservists, and civil defense members. The general remarks that our boy is the core of Neo Soul's success, so he believes they should force him to join them. His subordinate confirms everything is ready. The old man claims it doesn't matter how strong the target is. Our protagonist is just a 20-year-old boy who needs to be taught a lesson. Suddenly, everything starts to shake. The general wonders if it is an earthquake, but Kim realizes the tremor caused by the Ironhead mercenaries. Our hero quickly arrives at the headquarters. Standing in front, the general smirks and comments that the return was noisier than expected. Chu angrily asks if he was the one who destroyed the house. Outraged by the tone, the colonel shouts at the boy to speak to the general with respect. Ignoring him entirely, our protagonist grabs the colonel's mouth and demands an answer. He repeats the question menacingly, wanting to know if it was the general who destroyed their home. The colonel struggles to breathe. The general begins to laugh, wondering aloud if Cholu is truly this angry over a little house. Annoyed, our boy releases the colonel and demands the general stop laughing and explain himself. The general explains that the territory now belongs to him, and anyone using the land must pay a price. He had the site demolished as part of his duties. Chu asks why he needs to pay when the land was a gift from Junil. The general warns that Neo Soul belongs to him now, so our hero must follow his rules. Changing tactics, the general extends his hand and invites Cholu to join him, promising as much free land as he wants. Our boy repeats the words, wondering about the offer, but he still furiously demands the immediate return of his land. Laughing sinisterly, the general says, if that is how he wants to play, then so be it. Unexpectedly, he declares the Ironhead mercenaries to be rebels and orders his men to eliminate them. Kangchild's mercenaries prepare for the looming confrontation, scanning the area and asking if the enemies are hiding. Meanwhile, Chelu walks alone toward the general. In response, the general orders all his troops to prepare for battle. One of the enemy soldiers mocks the advancement, wondering aloud what mere mercenaries could possibly do to them. Before he can finish the sentence, our hero stops him with a piercing gaze and a sharp command to halt. The threat is clear. Drawing a weapon means the end of the line for anyone who dares. Suddenly panicked, the general questions his guards, asking how they could be so foolish as to fall for a simple bluff. At that moment, someone calls up to our protagonist. Young-soo and Choi grab him, suggesting they resolve the situation through dialogue to avoid a disastrous war. Surprised by their intervention, the general questions the men's identity and asks if they are not soldiers. Realizing his authority is slipping, he shouts for Lee to be called. Lee appears immediately. The general asks if she is indeed the swordmaster of Neo-Soul, which he reluctantly confirms. He then offers her a promotion if she quickly subdues Chelu, but she simply sighs, replying that she cannot beat him. Frustrated, the general grabs her and shouts, asking if he looks like a joke to her. Maintaining her composure, Lee flashes a mocking smile and comments its character is even worse than she imagined. The general declares he will show her the true meaning of the worst and moves his hand forward quickly. However, his wrist is stopped midair as our hero grabs his arm. Chu coldly remarks that the man doesn't seem to know much about Nova. The general stares in shock at the incredible speed. Our protagonist continues his speech, explaining that his group is not made up of bandits who threaten civilians or reckless gangsters. However, they show no mercy to anyone who decides to fight them. As our boy applies force, the general screams in pain. Chu then asks the surrounding men if they still have the guts to fight him. The soldiers look clearly intimidated. A weapon clatters to the ground as a soldier screams in despair and gives up. Quickly, others follow suit, questioning how they could ever defeat Chu. They argue there is no point in going to war against the hero who saved Neo-Soul. Another soldier remarks that the place no longer feels like a military regime and announces he would rather join the mercenaries. Many others shout their agreement. Lee is stunned by the display. It is unbelievable to her that in these chaotic times, neither Neo-Soul nor the military could protect the citizens. Yet, the one who united everyone is Chaolu. His overwhelming strength is the only thing maintaining order. The general yells at Lee, complaining that she is standing by while her superior is in danger. He orders her to hurry and rid him of the enemy. Lee realizes she has no other choice and makes a pivotal decision. She positions herself in front of Chelu and declares that from now on her sword belongs to him. Everyone is stunned as she states that the Neo-Soul she knew no longer exists. She can no longer see a future in that place, but she sees one with our hero. She believes in a bright future for Nova due to his influence. Smiling with confidence, our protagonist welcomes her to the squad. The general questions her actions, but Lee simply tells him to process her discharge papers. Shocked and in disbelief, he shouts that he doesn't accept her leaving and asks who authorized it. Lee claims the decision as her own. She ignores his opinion and, stepping aside, tells him that any further complaints should be directed to her new boss. Terrified, the general listens as our hero says they need to discuss the price for destroying the mercenary base. Swallowing hard, the general asks if Cholu is really going to attack him, even if it means becoming a target of the Korean military. Grabbing the man's collar, our hero admits he is tempted to eliminate him right then and there. Instead, he proposes a resolution. He demands payment for the value of the land where the base stood, plus the reward he was originally supposed to receive from Junpil. Later, the mercenary squad drinks and celebrates. Our hero learns that Junpil was sent to Changju. Lee asks what the plan is for the unit moving forward. Kyoolu explains they plan to explore beyond the barrier, but without military support, they must figure out how to survive. Jinta suggests going to Changju, mentioning that discovery rewards are still available there. Liking the idea, our boy smiles confidently, thinking about the area boss that must exist there and the fact that Junpil is already on site. Jinta asks for other opinions, and while everyone agrees, Junhwan notices a strange expression on Chelu Han's face. He asks what is wrong, and our protagonist expresses his concern about leaving Choi and Young-Soo behind. Lee mentions that it is difficult for Captain Choi to leave because his mother is sick and Young-Soo would likely stay out of loyalty. Chaolu is confused until she explains that Choi depends on the military system for the hospital facilities and salary needed for his mother's care. things not available in the wilds of Nova. After thinking for a moment, our hero hits upon a great idea. As Choi leaves his room and tells Young-soo that the higher-ups refused his transfer to Changju, our boy appears and calls out them both. Choi asks why he is there, and with a confident smile, Chelu states he has come to take them both with him. Later, while sitting on a bench, Choi tells Young-soo to go with the mercenaries, but insists he cannot join. Kyoolu asks Choi if he would come if his family's safety were guaranteed. When Choi asks for clarification, our hero explains he has a company on Earth called Chelu Services that supports the families of those in Nova. Choi suspiciously asks if it's gang, but an embarrassed Chelu explains it is a legitimate business that protects his squad's families. Impressed by how well our protagonist solves problems, the two men agree to join. With that, our hero prepares to take his whole squad to Changju Nova, providing transportation and meals to help those who suffered under the new commander. A few days later, at the Poo portal, a large hit is gathered. Our protagonist walks through the throng, noting how much has changed since the official Nova announcement. A military jeep pulls up and a soldier emerges to greet him. She introduces herself as Second Lieutenant Shishongako Choi from the intelligence unit. Though our hero doesn't recognize her at first, she reminds him she was there previously with Officer Oh Chaolu, questions why she is speaking to him, and she explains she has a message from Lieutenant General Park Junpil. She reveals she has been assigned to the Changju Nova Intelligence unit and is there to escort him to his destination. Kyoolu smirks, realizing they are finally asmagismin. He immediately turns, suggesting they leave right away. She complains, asking if he won't ride with her in the jeep. But Chelu explains the group is too large and they must travel separately. At that moment, he sees the rest of the people arriving in buses. Number 1 greets his boss, but our hero reminds him they are not a gang. Number 1 then explains that as ordered by the sub-leader, he prepared the buses for the civilians. Chelu praises him and Gintai for the hard work. Gintai humbly claims he just spread the message, though he points out that our protagonist hasn't brought as many people as expected. Chaolu admits the sudden change was a heavy burden for some. The mercenaries decided to follow later, and he respects that choice. After all, they are starting their lives from scratch in rural Chongju. Smiling, our boy reveals he selected specific people to help with the construction of Chengju. Among them is a soup lady capable of giving a heavenly flavor to food, and a blacksmith who can repair or create any type of weapon. Ready to move, Chelu waves at Sun. As the buses begin to descend, he suggests they stop at a rest area before continuing. Soon they step inside the portal. Observing the surroundings, Chelu comments on how much the place has developed in such a short time. Ginte notices the people's clothes and laughs, already feeling Lieutenant General Park's influence. Chelu jokes that they left Neosol, only to find another place just like it. Suddenly, the general shouts excitedly for our hero. Chelu greets him with a laugh, mentioning he was worried when he heard the man was expelled. The general responds that it is normal for a soldier to change posts. Chelu comments that he almost slapped the guy who replaced him, and the general admits it was for the best that he refrained. Our protagonist then mentions he brought gifts. The old man is curious until he recognizes the newcomers are merchants from Neo Seoul. Chu explains his plan to establish a village, was worried about the general being alone, so he brought everyone willing to accompany him. Extremely happy, the general admits these are the people needed to accelerate Nova's development. The merchants greet the old man, saying they missed him. The general thanks Kyoolu for his help, and our hero proudly says that is what friends are for, telling the general to consider it thanks for lending him his men. Soon, Lee, Choi, and Yanu arrive at Changju. Lee happily greets the general, noting it has been a while since they last met. Xiaolu explains these newcomers are now part of the mercenary group and will assist with development. After a brief pause, the general points out they have left the army and bursts into laughter. He says they did well because he was worried about them, adding that he couldn't be happier that everyone came to Chelu. Excited, he invites everyone to have a meal together. As they cross the village, Chelu asks what kind of place this is, wondering if it will be a second Neo Seoul. The general expected this question and reveals the name is Han Yang. The goal is to ensure future generations have food in this agriculturally focused location to prepare against monster invasions. They built an earthen fortress. Furthermore, with the development of roads, the place will become a commercial center, allowing interaction with all continents. Our boy finds the idea of an agricultural village incredible. The general proudly reveals the secret was finding rice seedlings, noting that each region has different items to obtain. Excited by the news of rice, Chelu asks if they will finally be able to eat rice soup instead of barley. The general laughs, calling him pure and innocent. However, the old man remembers he called Chelu for something even more important. Our protagonist stops right there. General Park asks if they want to try to conquer a secret dungeon, and Xiolu gets excited while the rest of the group shows interest. While walking, the general reveals they discovered a magic teleportation circle, which will be crucial for transport in Nova. Our hero wonders what a teleportation circle actually is. Park explains a guard discovered it by chance. A system window gives details. The magic circle allows instant travel to other registered circles for 100,000 coins. The general notes that if simpler circles are found elsewhere, direct travel will be possible. Chelu asks if the area near the circle will become overvalued property. Laughing at the comparison, the general agrees with the analogy. He plans to build a big road connecting Hanyang to that location, but the path is currently blocked by a dungeon. This leads our boy to understand the reason for the request. The general admits the task is beyond their current capabilities and requires the strength of the mercenary group. He promises that if they clear the dungeon, he will let them claim that site for their base of operations. Tempted by the offer, Chelu soon reaches the dungeon entrance with his squad. A system window pops up, identifying the hidden dungeon as the cursed castle of the Count. The objective is to eliminate Count who practiced forbidden magic with rewards including a seal of the Lord and a first-time completion bonus. Chelu notices magnificent castle and the prize while standing at the entrance. The atmosphere is tense. Jen comes that the weather seems ominous and even the mercenaries look scared. Chelu tells them those who are afraid can stay behind. His eyes filled with killing intent. The soldiers quickly change their minds, shouting that there will be no deserters. Our hero comments that his axe will not be stained with the blood of cowards, then orders everyone to arm themselves, shut up and move out. The soldiers advance on their horses. Suddenly, a giant glowing arrow hits the ground, stopping one of the horses. More arrows fall from the sky, trapping the animals and preventing movement. Chelu perceives the situation quickly. These are long-range attacks from high ground, making a simple advance difficult. The attackers are skeleton archers. Seeing this, our protagonist jumps off his horse and orders the scattered army to regroup and wait it out. Advancing quickly and determined, Chelu shouts that he is going to break down the castle gate. Arrows fall toward him, but he doesn't care. He tells Sonata and advances at high speed. The horse acquires a new skill, Galling Charge, which increases leg speed. A skeleton archer nearby appears shocked by the sudden charge. Still advancing, our boy orders Sonata to use force. After destroying the gate, the horse learns a new skill, Horned Impact. Frightened, the skeletons scream in alarm at the destruction, attracting the attention of all enemies. The skeletons gather around Cholu as he yells at them to come at him. He grabs one skeleton and headbutts it, announcing that he has an iron head. Noticing that the arrow attack has ceased, the sub-leader orders the cavalry to storm the gate. Nearby, Chelu faces 3 skeletons alone. He wields his axe to deal with the monsters, swinging the blade with enough force to shatter them while complaining about the weakness of his enemies. At this rate, he expects to finish before reinforcements even arrive, wondering if there is anyone stronger present. Soon heavy footsteps echo nearby. A massive opponent in full armor appears before our protagonist, who looks at the newcomer in surprise. Wasting no time, Cholu attacks. He mockingly asks if this is all the creature has to offer, noting that the knight appears much weaker than a cyclops. Our boy hits the knight with a heavy blow, sending the giant crashing to the ground. He shouts that the fight is boring and wonders why the foe didn't drop any items. Suddenly, his squad arrives and asks if he is okay. Our hero says he is fine, though he grumbles that his men only show up once he has finished cleaning the area. He begins giving orders, telling some to stay behind while others advance, warning them to be careful of enemies inside. Jin suddenly screams a warning, but it is too late. An attack hits Chelu squarely from behind. Shockingly, the fallen knight Dullahan, the guardian of the manor, is still alive. The mercenaries shout our protagonist's name as a huge cut opens across his back. He cannot believe he let his guard down, having assumed the monster was dead. As the giant moves in for another strike, Li makes her entry and lands a powerful blow. After striking from multiple directions, she knocks the knight down once more and rushes to Chelu's side. Our hero points out that the creature is not dead, noting that the enemy survived the previous onslaught. In the meantime, skeletal creatures begin to emerge again while Dullahan reconstitutes its body. Li wonders how they can move if they are already dead. Chelu states that black magic is controlling the corpses. Recalling the description he saw earlier, our boy realizes that to finish them off, they must defeat the Count who controls them. He immediately orders the others to buy him time so he can step inside, but Li stops him, insisting on treating his wounds first. Once bandaged, our protagonist leaves the perimeter to his comrades and heads into the manor. Inside, a horrible smell of rot fills the room, forcing him to cover his nose. He soon discovers a large creature and wonders if this is the source of the stench. This identifies the beast as a corpse golem. Chelu comments that something creative has finally appeared. He was growing bored, but his bleeding is intense, so he decides to finish this quickly to find the Count. He attacks the golem, The creature raises its arm to defend itself, but the weapon pierces the monster's torso. The creature lets out a scream as it is torn apart, yet the wounds quickly begin to close. Annoyed, our warrior grumbles to himself about fighting an immortal Dullahan, followed by a regenerating monster. He summons his magic-imbued axe from his inventory. With this weapon, he delivers a series of blows, wanting to see if the golem's regeneration can keep pace. Soon, the golem is torn into pieces. Our hero calls the technique Barbarian-style destruction. A notification appears stating that his mastery with heavy weapons has earned him a new skill: dual-wield mastery. While he is excited about the skill, the flesh of the golem suddenly surrounds him. He wonders how it can still regenerate after being shredded, then spots a red orb pulsing with mass. Still trapped, our protagonist extends his hand toward the object. He struggles to reach the orb as he is completely engulfed by the flesh, but he finally manages to smash it. With the orb destroyed, the golem is defeated. Kyoto obtains another orb, which system identifies as a golem skill. Realizing he has achieved something very useful, he heads deeper into the manor. Stepping into the inner sanctum, he shouts to announce his arrival, demanding that the Count appear. A figure wearing a long blue cape begins to walk forward. Shud looks up and recognizes the man as Count Ryan. According to the system, the Count used forbidden dark magic to protect his domain, but was ultimately consumed by it. With determination, our hero faces the corrupted noble. He asks if the man is half original recipe and half fried, but the knight remains silent. Our protagonist comments on the silence, but decides it doesn't matter. As he jumps forward to land a strike, reveals his sole objective, ending this fight once and for all. Chu attacks the Count with both of his axes, but the opponent launches a fierce counterattack. Surprised by the knight's strength, our protagonist can barely defend himself. Surrounded by flames, the warrior still attacks as he feels the heat become almost unbearable. His skin burns, and he can barely withstand the temperature, finding it difficult to even breathe. He realizes that these are no ordinary flames. So our hero activates his search ability. The system analyzes the half-lich, Count Ruined, and generates the results. The Count is an undead with dark magic and level 2 swordsmanship skills. Chelu notes how high the enemy's skill with the weapon is, while the Count cuts open his bandage. Just then our boy uses the orb he obtained from the golem to gain the ability of the golem's recovery. The system explains that as long as the core is intact, he can heal even destroyed limbs. Hence, our hero declares himself invincible and orders the enemy to cut as much as he wants. Meanwhile, the mercenaries fight against the skeleton undead army. Junhwan shouts orders to his companions, telling them to hold tight and keep attacking. On the other hand, Lee is fighting against the giant knight. She appears exhausted and overwhelmed, reflecting that the situation is very difficult. Their only hope now lies with their leader. The battle continues intensely between the Count and Chu. Our protagonist grinds his teeth thinking about his companions, because he knows everyone is waiting for him. He is determined to finish off his opponent once and for all. The weapons of the two clash with full force, and our warrior appears surprised by the power of the blow. He tries to resist the attack and barely defends himself. Even using all his strength and both weapons firmly, he watches as his opponent cuts through with a flaming spear. One of Chelu's weapons flies away, which makes things difficult for him. Before he can do anything, the Count lands another strike that pushes back our boy. He begins to understand the strategy. The Count is constantly attacking to block his escape. In the blink of an eye, the Count disappears and quickly reappears. Soon our hero gets a hang of the enemy movement and reflects on the secret behind the incessant attacks. Agility does not just come from weapon speed, as each step prepares the next to strike in a perfect sequence. Our protagonist counterattacks as he curses the Count, feeling he needs to learn this technique quickly. Both exchange fierce blows while the combat remains intense and fast. Soon a system notification appears telling him that his axe proficiencies increased to level 2. He wonders if he is now on the same level as his opponent, since he can now clearly see the exact paths of enemy attacks. With that, he blocks the blows and declares that he has learned a lot from the Count. After saying farewell, our hero lands his final blow and finishes the enemy. The system notifies him that the secret dungeon has been completed. After sighing, he reflects that his gun broke in the process. Soon, the system announces the rewards, including a seal of the Lord to declare his territory. He also receives the longsword of the Steel Knight, used by the Count, and the pendant of the goddess, which has divine healing power. Holding the pendant, our protagonist notices its healing effect and thinks he will now be able to treat his injured comrades. Soon he reunites with his companions. Everyone is happy to see him, but they are more surprised to see his injuries fully healed. Chu shrugs it off as a little adventure and asks Junon what the current situation is. Junhwan reports that there are 7 men seriously injured. So our hero excitedly tells him to lead the way to the wounded. The subordinate is confused and does not understand how healing would be possible. Holding the shiny pendant, our protagonist invokes the power of the goddess and asks for the healing of his companions. Soon all the injured fully recover. Gent questions if they are truly free from their injuries, and our boy explains that the item has limited uses with only 3 charges remaining. Despite that, Ginte is grateful that everyone survived such a fierce battle. However, the atmosphere becomes heavy as Lee and Janu stand with sad faces, revealing that they unfortunately have 3 casualties. Later, the group holds a funeral for those 3 mercenaries. Our hero holds the necklace and regrets the loss, thinking that if he had been faster, this wouldn't have happened, but he realizes that is not how he should be feeling. So he declares that lives lost in battle are noble. He thanks the comrades who fought until the end and announces that they have conquered a new fortress. Chelu says that they will transform this place into a fortress, so no one can threaten them again. A system window appears asking if he wants to use the seal of the Lord to make this area his territory. He accepts, and the area becomes Ironhead's territory. This is now their main base, the Castle of the Ironhead. Later on a teleportation circle, Chaoldu and the General discuss matters. Park says that thanks to the success in conquering the dungeon, they can now build a road directly to the site. He asks how our protagonist feels about being a lord, and our boy replies that it is not bad. He thinks of bringing the mercenaries' families here soon, and Park agrees that Earth is no longer safe. The general looks thoughtful and reveals he has a confidential matter, asking if Chelu can keep it secret. Curious, our hero asks what it is about. The general explains that he recently provided information about opening portals to the United States. This is how they discovered the cause of the apocalypse. Surprised, Chelu asks about the cause. With a serious look, General Park asks our boy to get ready and warns him not to be shocked. He reveals that the cause of the Earth apocalypse is a zombie virus. Surprised, our hero asks if the information is true. The general confirms, noting he has heard reports of infected individuals turning into zombies. He questions whether the plan to move the population from the Terra to Sava is still necessary. The general explains that unless the apocalypse is imminent, relocating such a mass of people remains a difficult task. Kielu agrees, acknowledging that the transition is hard for many, which is why citizens from Neosol could not reach Cheongju quickly. He then asks what will happen once the zombie virus is publicly revealed. The general reacts sharply, alarmed by the suggestion, and warns that it would trigger total chaos. He further cautions about the current lack of territory and food supplies in Nova. Our protagonist understands the necessity of preparation before accepting more refugees. As they walk, our boy asks how the government intends to prepare. The general explains the plan to construct barriers near Korea's 5 portals alongside new evacuation shelters. Furthermore, they seek to guarantee safety and food security within Nova itself. Because of this, he has a specific request for the warrior. He asks Chiu for his assistance in opening the remaining portals. Our hero asks if the request entails defeating the field bosses in each Nova sector. Park nods, stating that while others are doing their best, the process is moving too slowly. He believes that with his help, progress would be faster than expected. Unexpectedly, Chelu refuses. Surprised, Park questions the rejection. Our protagonist states that from now on, he will only fight for his tribe. A disappointed Park reveals he thought they shared the same vision for the world. The warrior apologizes, explaining that he does not fight for humanity as a whole. He considers it a luxury to fight for others, when he cannot even protect his own family. Meanwhile, on Earth, occasional casualties occur as goblins begin appearing outside the portals. In the street, Chelu's grandfather walks along while the government broadcasts warnings people to stay indoors. Sighing, the old man comments that things are going to get heated. He notices that our boy hasn't sent any messages lately and wonders if he is eating well. Suddenly, a goblin drops from the sky and advances on him. Frightened, the elder falls to the ground and desperately tries to escape. Suddenly, someone appears from behind and lands a heavy blow on the creature. Shortly after, a pair of siblings appear. They are workers for Chelu on Earth. The girl asks if the old man is okay and extends her hand to help. However, he tells her to take her hands off him. Ignoring her help, he gets up by himself. The other boy presents a goblin coin, wanting the grandfather to use it to become a novice. The old man grumbles that he has no need for it and tells the young people to keep it for themselves. The girl becomes angry, asking desperately why he is being so harsh and why he hates them so much. The grandfather responds that he is afraid Shu will be corrupted by bandits like them, claiming he needs no help from gangsters. The lady is visibly upset by his words. Just then, our hero appears behind them and tells the siblings not to lower their heads as they have done nothing wrong. Chelu then calls out to the old man. With a smile, our protagonist reveals a bottle kept in a bag. Later, they sit together at a table. While pouring a drink, Chelu asks if his grandfather has been praying a lot lately. The elder responds that it is because of him. Without prayer, he cannot sleep due to worry. Complaining slightly, the grandfather says his grandson doesn't seem to care and asks why he is even visiting. They toast while our boy wonders if the old man is upset, suggesting they stay together if the worry is too great. He insists that his grandfather go to Nova with him, secretly thinking that Earth will soon become dangerous because of the virus. He mentions that if it weren't for those siblings, things would be difficult for them. The grandfather cuts the speech short, asking him not to mention those gangsters. Our hero asks why he harbors such hatred. The elder states he simply cannot trust their kind. In a memory, a younger version of the grandfather appears, revealing a shameful past. He was once a successful gangster himself, a favorite of the boss, who eventually became the president of a construction company. However, when problems arose, his comrades shifted all the blame onto him. Upon being arrested, he realized he was merely a scapegoat. He spent his youth in prison, and by the time he left, he had nothing. Just as he was about to give up, he found Chalu as a child. Our protagonist jokes that he saved his grandfather's life. The old man complains that he is ungrateful and rarely shows up. When Chalu mentions the siblings again, the elder insists he will solve everything himself. With a smile, our boy comments that the men from the past were the truly bad ones. He then asks if his grandfather has ever thought about revenge. The old man dismisses the idea, asking how he would even achieve it. He notes that his former boss used loyal men as stepping stones to create the famous CK Group. The scene shifts to the CK Group headquarters in Daejeon. Daejeon Kim, chairman of the CK Group, an affiliate of the Gangnam Nova Union, thanks the chairman of the Dugong Group, Dusk Choi. Receiving a glass of wine, Choi praises for his efforts in Nova. Feeling honored, Kim thanks him humbly. Choi then asks the purpose of the meeting. Kim mentions that they have few trained men and wants to offer his services. Choi asks why. Wondering if Kim is offering his entertainment company, Choi comments on the rumors regarding the end of the world, but considers entertainment a good business in Nova. Kim counters that their main business has always been fighting, and they must lead the hunt with a serious focus. Choi agrees and tells Kim to say what he really wants. Excited, Kim suggests they should also open the portal in Daejeon and offers to lead the hunt for the area bosses. Choi expresses concern about the potential harm of the idea. Kim laughs, stating they have lived their lives in combat and can do exactly what an unknown boy did in Neo Seoul. Suddenly, a subordinate rushes in and shouts to the president that there is a major problem. The man informs them that intruders have broken into the building by force and are causing a ruckus. Irritated by the interruption, Kim complains. Choi grumbles that the mood of the conversation is ruined and decides to leave, promising to continue another time. The subordinate tries to stop him, but it is too late. With a pale face, the staffer reveals that the president is gone. Furious, Kim takes his anger out on the subordinate, shouting at the idiot for standing still and ordering him to call Director Jen to handle the situation immediately. Meanwhile, in the hallway, several men in suits lie on the floor, easily neutralized by the invaders. The group is actually led by Chalu. A member asks him if they performed well. Our hero responds that they need to try harder, causing her to sigh. Suddenly, our boy stops and tells them to look ahead. Director Yang appears facing the group. Our protagonist asks directly if he is the boss. Holding a bag of bread, Chelu says that if Jen isn't the boss, the real one better come quickly. Taking a bite of the bread, our hero smiles and nonchalantly comments that he needs to get back to his grandfather before the food gets cold. Our hero hands the bread to the fifth girl, deciding it is time to take care of Janong. Meanwhile, Janong picks up his knives. Chu questions the use of double swords, noting that such weapons are not their Nova, and wonders aloud if the man wants to be arrested for assault. Jang gestures toward his injured men, confused by the accusation. Internally, he reflects on his 30 years in the gang, noting he has never encountered anyone quite like this. He does not understand why they were attacked, but he decides he cannot let the slight go. Jang advances, wielding his blades with lethal intent. Finding the display amusing, our protagonist dodges the strikes effortlessly, commenting that he is being very merciful for an inhabitant of Earth. He then lands a heavy blow with his palm, announcing that he at least refrains from killing. The force of the strike sends Jang flying back at high speed. Satisfied with the outcome, our hero considers the situation favorable, deciding to use his hands as blades instead of relying on a sword. With blood in his mouth and searing pain in his chest, Jang curses Chaolu, realizes his ribs are broken and decides to unleash his ultimate skill, the Pandemonium technique. This move uses hundreds of distracting sword strikes to mask a primary attack that strikes like the fang of a viper. To his absolute shock, our protagonist shatters the steel blades with his bare hands. Janang freezes, realizing the blow had no effect. He stares at the hero, wondering what kind of legendary technique could possibly achieve this. Mocking the question, Cholu reveals he simply swung his arm. He then lands another powerful blow, sending tumbling across the ground with a massive impact. The scene shifts to Cheongju, where Ginte thoughtfully surveys Ironhead Castle. He sketches plans for barracks, a prison, a blacksmith shop, and a general store, envisioning an indoor village. However, he notices the prayer hall remains deactivated and wonders how to unlock the restricted buildings. Nearby, Lee stretches and yawns on a piece of furniture. Surprised to see him, she asks what he is doing there. She calls him vice captain before correcting herself, asking if she should refer to him as the Chamberlain of the castle instead. A flashback reveals Chelu appointing Ginty as the Chamberlain of Ironhead Castle. A system window appears, confirming the appointment. Our protagonist explains that Gintai will act as his representative in his absence to develop the inner village. He then places Jun Huan in charge of the main mercenary unit in training, while appointing Lee as his personal guard, a role he notes is quite dangerous. Finally, he assigns Choi and Young-soo to lead the Teratos guerrilla unit. Kielu announces that they will transform this location into an impenetrable fortress specifically for Ironheads, ensuring no one can ever invade. Back in the present, Lee recalls that the captain returned to Earth after making those arrangements. Gent believes the boss is planning extensively due to the recent loss of several mercenaries, adding that while the captain seems tough, he possesses a sensitive side as well. When Lee asks about their next move, Ginte insists they must wait for the plan to unfold. Lee agrees despite her reservations, hoping he isn't just off somewhere drinking. The scene shifts back to Earth, where manager Jang is violently thrown to the pavement. Director Kim watches the display with growing annoyance, wondering who could have reduced a man like Jang to such a state. Soon, our hero appears and introduces himself as the grandson of Young Kong. Kim watches Cholu with suspicion, reflecting that he only knows one man by that name. He wonders if the old man trained this giant to seek revenge. Suddenly, Kim's attitude shifts. He laughs loudly with a sinister smile, claiming it is wonderful to meet the grandson of an old friend. Chelu finds the word friend strange as he has heard a very different version of their history. As he pours a drink, Kim admits there may be a deep misunderstanding between them. While doing so, he surreptitiously drops a small pill into the glass. The host suggests they chat over first-class whiskey, praising the quality of the spirit. Tempted by the drink, Chelu agrees to hear the story. He sits on the couch while his companions stand directly behind him, watching closely. Accepting the cup, the eyes of our protagonist shine with anticipation. He announces he will enjoy it in a single gulp and drains the entire glass. Kim smiles, thinking how easily the boys swallowed the deadly substance. He asks how it tastes, inwardly mocking Chiu for being stupid enough to accept a drink from an enemy. Our hero places a hand over his mouth, seemingly feeling the effects of the toxin. With a vicious grin, Kim pulls a gun. He declares victory and shoots him instantly. To Kim's horror, the companions remain perfectly calm even after their leader is shot. Later, Chelu remarks that the taste was actually quite good. He lands a heavy blow on Kim and demands he pour another round. Kim falls to the ground, terrified to see the man still standing. Our protagonist smiles, noting he thought there might have been a good reason for the betrayal of his grandfather, but he now sees Kim as just trash. A system window reveals that he has activated poison resistance and golem regeneration. Desperate, the enemy draws his weapon again, warning him not to come closer. Our boy smashes the gun with his bare hand and asks if those are his last words. Collapsing to the floor, Kim begs for his life, promising to do anything. Our protagonist tests this, demanding an apology to his grandfather. He further insists on the return of the stolen shares and the transfer of all assets to the Ironhead Corporation. Recognizing the name, Kim realizes this is the Chaolu from Ironhead who defeated the area boss. Our hero confirms this and hits him once more. The scene shifts to the grandfather, who is busy praying to various deities to watch over poor Chaolu. While the old man is still deep in prayer, his grandson announces his return. The grandfather turns around shocked to see a man kneeling and begging for forgiveness. He asks what has happened, and our hero proudly reveals that he has captured the man who stole the company. He explains he taught the thief a lesson and asks if his grandfather feels better now. After a brief silence, Gramps slaps his grandson across the face, shouting that he is seriously disappointed in him. Sitting at the table, grandfather scolds Cheolu, warning that using fists for everything will turn him into a criminal. He cautions that the boy could end up just like Kim. Meanwhile, Kim walks away, thinking to himself that it was a close call. On the other hand, Cholu states that he will never forgive anyone who hurts his family, even if he has to kill them. Desperate, the elder speaks about the sanctity of human life and warns that such aggression will bring divine punishment. However, our protagonist argues that in today's world, hesitation can cost a family their lives. He cannot accept his grandfather's logic because he has his own reasons. The old man wonders why he even bothers Prach when Shelu refuses to listen. Our hero then suggests that the old man accompany him to Nova. He tries to convince his grandfather by explaining that seeing Nova will change his mind, especially since Earth is becoming so dangerous that mass migration is inevitable. Grandpa ponders these words, wondering what kind of place Nova is, and why our boy is so desperate to take him along. After a moment of reflection, grandfather lets out a long sigh, finally agrees to go. Cheolu is surprised by the sudden compliance, but the grandfather imposes a strict condition. He demands a promise. Absolutely no lives should be taken, and he will be watching our hero closely. Changing scenes to Keel's solution, the subordinates congratulate our protagonist for finally convincing the old man. Number 1 asks if he is returning to Nova immediately. Our hero confirms this, explaining he needs to secure his grandfather's qualifications. Number 5 offers to help, but Sholu refuses, noting that Grandpa is too shy to meet them and is waiting at another location. Turning to number 1, he asks about the current preparations. The subordinate confirms they are moving the mercenary families to Nova, officially launching the migration business. Our hero praises the good work while number 1 thanks him for the brilliant business idea. He further informs Chelu that the CK Construction Group has agreed to be incorporated into their company. When asked for the new name, our protagonist reveals they have changed it to IR Holdings Co., with IR standing for Ironhead. This official transition makes our hero the CEO of the firm. Later, Chu and his grandfather arrive at the site of the Pooh portal. Our boy explains that they need to hunt goblins there to collect coins. The elderly man reacts with fear at the mention of the creatures and prays to God for protection. Our hero questions the concern, noting his own high resistance, but his grandfather reminds him that he is not invincible. Chesloot suggests they stop talking and move quickly. 2 hours later, the grandfather sits exhausted on a rock, complaining of aching bones. Chelu looks around, finding it strange that they haven't encountered any goblins yet, and questions if this is truly a spawn area. Suddenly, his eyes widen as he spots movement in the distance. Grabbing his grandfather, our protagonist starts running and shouts for them to move. The elder demands to be released, calling him a brat as they dash through the dark forest. Pointing into the woods, Chelu shouts that there is a goblin. Terrified, the grandfather wonders how he is supposed to capture such a thing. Handing over an axe, our hero says it is a gift for his grandfather to use. He jokes that the old man must have used one back in his gangster days, which only sps anger. Laughing, Chelu warns that he will only intervene if things become truly dangerous, as he could finish the beast with one blow. He rushes the old man to try and catch it. At that moment, another young man appears, jumping into the fray with a baseball bat. He swings a well-aimed blow, hitting the goblin square in the head. The boy celebrates the headshot while his companion films the encounter. The cameraman confirms the mission is to catch 5 goblins in 5 hours. On the broadcast screen, the streamer poses and thanks 53 viewers for their support. Comments flood the screen regarding the fight. Though some viewers notice a figure in the background, it is Chelu who now faces the students. Holding his axe, our hero asks the frightened boys what their problem is. He complains that they are already novice, questioning why they are stealing opportunities from others. Grandfather tries to stop the situation from turning violent, but our hero insists on teaching the boys a lesson. The elder lectures Cholu on his behavior, threatening to stay behind and skip the trip to Nova if he continues. He calls the students closer, telling our protagonist to stay still and reflect on his actions. The 2 students follow the old man away through the dark forests. Worried that our boy might actually hurt someone, the grandfather decides he must get the students to safety quickly. He looks back to ensure they are protected in such a dangerous environment. However, the broadcast viewers are busy discussing the high-quality axe they saw in our hero's hand. Driven by greed, the students decide to steal it. They call out to the old man, who turns around and apologizes as if his grandson scared them. With a smirk, one student comments on the quality of the axe before the pair reveals their own knives. They demand the weapon and decide to take the old man hostage to ensure a smooth exchange. The grandfather is in shock. The students mock him, stating they never asked for help and intend to use him as leverage. Even as they threaten him, the old man holds his own axe tight and calls the students worthless scoundrels. He claims he doesn't mind being targeted himself, but he cannot stand them targeting his grandson. Deeper in the forest, Shaolu looks thoughtful. He wonders if he was the problem all along before quickly shifting the blame back to the students. He briefly worries that his grandfather has abandoned him. Suddenly, a scream echoes through the trees. Our hero looks toward the sound and observes the 2 students fleeing in terror. Realizing something is wrong, he rushes to the scene and finds his grandfather injured on the ground. The elder is coughing hard and appears desperate. Cholu takes out a golden pendant and begs the goddess to cure his grandfather immediately. Following the healing, our hero asks if the old man is okay. The grandfather apologizes to Kaolu, regretting that he argued with him in front of such people. With a gentle smile, our boy says that everything is fine and that the only thing that matters is his safety. Helping the elderly man to his feet, Cheolu asks if he can walk. When the grandfather asks where they are headed, our protagonist reveals they are going after the cowards who escaped. The 2 attackers stop to catch their breath, panting heavily. One student complains about the other using an axe without knowing how, while the second curses the grandfather and moans in pain. They suggest running away before our hero catches them, but suddenly a hand covers one of their faces from behind. Without effort, Chaolu lifts the student off the ground with a single hand. The student is paralyzed with shock while his partner freezes in fear, wondering how our hero arrived so quickly. With a swift movement, our protagonist throws one student against the other, knocking them both down. The grandfather watches the scene unfold as a bat falls near him. Chelu declares that the world is no longer peaceful. It is a battlefield where only the strong survive. He claims he is not a criminal but a warrior who eliminates anyone threatening his family. Elsewhere, Lee and Jianwan watch the red moon with worried expressions. They consider it a grave omen. A sleepy Gentai appears, rubbing his eyes and asking why they are staring at the sky. Upon seeing the red moon, he mentions that lunar eclipses happen on Nova as well. Lee panics, realizing the eclipse event has started exactly when the boss is outside the castle. During this event, monsters are driven into a blood-fueled rage by the moon's influence. Chalu arrives in Nova alongside his grandfather. A mischievous smile plays on his face as he realizes he can finally show the city to the elderly man. His grandfather watches the red sky with a heavy sense of confusion, pointing out that our boy had promised this place would be pleasant. Kaolu wonders what could have happened to cause such a change. In the background, his grandfather continues to shout, demanding to know what is going on. Sun runs towards them, shouting Chelu's name. Our protagonist scratches his head, failing to recognize the girl, which prompts her to beg him to try and remember her. When asked how she knew he had arrived, Sheng explains that the military controls the portal entrance, and she rushed over the moment she received the report of his return. Chelu asks what the matter is, and the girl responds that it is an emergency. Major Park is calling for him. Later they arrive at the government office. Chelu's grandfather formally greets Commander Park, who introduces himself politely. The old man asks if they are disturbing, but Park smiles and says it is no inconvenience at all. He expresses that he wanted to take the time to meet the grandfather of his friend, who had finally come to Nova. A system window appears displaying the grandfather's status. Yang Chokang is a newcomer with no special characteristics or abilities. Park comments that the grandfather is an important person to Chelu, noting that he and our hero share a very close relationship. Cholu interrupts, wanting to understand the current situation. He asks about the red sky and the presence of armed soldiers outside. The commander explains that the eclipse event is about to begin. Furious monsters will soon attack humans without distinction. These creatures have their attack power increased by 50%. And while the rewards are also increased by 50%, it remains a difficult event to manage. Finding the situation interesting, Chelu asks if the current state is stable. Park responds that while Han has time to defend itself, the real problem lies with Ironhead Castle. The castle will be attacked before they can prepare. Chu points out that Ironhead is about to be flooded with monsters. The general nods, noting that since this is the first lunar eclipse for our protagonist, it must be hard for him to imagine the scale of the threat. Unfortunately, their mercenaries are too few to defend against the waves. Seeing the gravity of the situation, the general insists that Chu quickly return to the castle, promising that support troops will be sent later to help. Soon Chu returns to his castle with the reinforcements. Ginta spots him and is surprised to see the grandfather. He runs happily to greet the elderly man, who smiles back in recognition. Ginte asks about the trip, and the old man responds that he actually feels much younger and better. Our hero joins the conversation and jokes that his grandfather is more resilient than Ginte, leaving Ginte in shock. Soon the Ironhead mercenaries arrive under the command of Janu. They salute their leader, Lord Chaolu, showing absolute loyalty. The grandfather and the army soldiers observe the scene with surprise and admiration. Gramps wonders why they are greeting Kyolu with such reverence. Gent explains that the young man has achieved a great deal and is truly amazing. Visibly moved, the grandfather murmurs about his grandson, feeling a deep sense of pride. Turning to his troops, Chelu comments that he finds these greetings unnecessary before a battle. His eyes shine brightly as he admits the situation is actually quite good. He shouts for everyone to prepare for battle immediately. Later in a meeting, our boy learns that Lee and the guerrilla unit have already headed out. Junan reports that monsters are currently approaching from 3 directions. Gnolls emerge from below while orcs advance through the forest. Shaolu thinks it will be difficult if they attempt to attack the hordes directly. However, he points out they have fought these foes before, so defense should not be a problem, especially with the dispatched soldiers as support. Junan points out the real problem. Minotaurs are coming down the hill. Surprised, Chu asks if he means the giant bulls. Confirming this, Junan explains that the guerrilla unit went ahead to try and halt their momentum. Our protagonist asks if they went to fight these new monsters alone, believing they might have gone to hoard the rewards for themselves. Annoyed, Junhuan internally reflects that this is not the case at all. With that, Kielu decides he must go before it is too late. He tells the others he is counting on them to protect the castle. Meanwhile, the battle has already begun outside. The guerrilla unit faces several minotaurs. An angry beast raises its weapon to attack, but Lee manages to block the powerful blow. She realizes that mounted fighting techniques are ineffective against minotaurs, likely because of their combined human and animal biology. One of the monsters knocks Yongsu off his horse, but Choi quickly attacks with his sword, eliminating the threat. A worried Choi approaches his fallen comrade to ask if he is okay. Zhu responds that he is fine. The difficulty, Choi warns that they must hold their ground. If the monsters reach the castle, they will face significant problems. Lee spots a new wave of monsters heading straight for Choi and Yong-soo. Determined to act, she unleashes her special attack and brings down a group of monsters at once. Is amazed, calling her my lady. However, she has taken a blow and shows signs of exhaustion. She spits blood, and when Yong-soo asks what is wrong, she reveals she was hit during the previous confrontation and has lost an arm. The companions are visibly alarmed by the injury. The situation grows complicated as the monsters advance again. Despite her condition, Lee insists on continuing the fight, asking them to simply take care of her severed limb. Yong-soo thinks the idea is crazy and suggests retreating, but she dismisses his concern. She tells him there is no need to back down because their leader has arrived. Sheldu holds up a healing pendant, asking the goddess to reattach Lee's arm. Watching the arm reconnecting, Lee comments that it is amazing no matter how many times she sees it. The system warns that the cure's use count has been reduced, leaving only one charge remaining. Turning around, Chelu asks Choi about the current situation. The subordinate informs the group that the mountain range is the monster's habitat, and they are starting to gather together. He notes it is his first time facing them, observing that the enemies are exceptionally strong. Our protagonist mentions that taking care of these foes now will make the castle's defense much easier later. He states that he will handle this area alone, and orders the rest of the group to return to the castle. The others question whether he should be left by himself and offer their help. But our hero says he needs them for something more important since his grandfather has arrived at the fortress. Yong-soo seems shocked by the revelation and immediately shouts that they will run back to protect the castle. Wishing good luck to Chelu. Contrary to orders, Lee states she will stay as she is the captain of the Royal Hall Guard. She argues that since Chelu was the one who nominated her, she has no choice but to remain by his side. Our boy grumbles that he cannot argue with that logic. Then he mounts Sonata. Lee tells him to give the orders. Chelu announces that the goal is to reach the summit before the eclipse ends, declaring they must eliminate all enemies in their path. Meanwhile, the herd of minotaurs continues to advance without stopping. Our hero charges forward with his axes, screaming for the enemies to get what they deserve. Activating the running ability, he advances quickly and cuts through multiple enemies at once. Observing the scene, Lee is impressed by what she sees. Those movements are even more precise than those of the minotaurs. While the monsters have beastly bodies, they simply do not compare to him. Chaoldu easily cuts through the strong showing a perfect union between himself and his horse. Suddenly, a minotaur's head drops in front of Lee, causing her to question her own actions. She realizes she did not come here just to observe. Using Cholu's broad back as a shield, she joins the fray. Our protagonist goes on to attack with his axe and takes down yet another monster. Lee thinks that no ordinary person can compare to his power. Soon after the fight, the warrior approaches Lee and comments that she is a little late. Suddenly, a loud scream echoes. Something in the distance catches their attention. They see a village on fire and hear people crying for help. Lee asks what is happening there. Jelu realizes people are in danger and ponders his next move. He thinks of Ironhead Castle, knowing that protecting it will not be easy either. However, he remembers his grandfather always said that human lives are precious and must be protected. Therefore, our hero decides to help this village. Getting closer, they see the attackers are angry goblins. Meanwhile, a horde of goblins rushes toward the village. A man being chased by a goblin asks a mercenary to take care of them, quickly deciding to pay more. The masked warrior states this is much more than what they previously discussed. The man then shouts an offer of 2.5 billion. Surprised by the value, the mercenary is amazed. The man states that if he manages to keep the entire group away from the village, the Yongjun group will pay the full amount. After a brief moment, the mercenary demands the man double the payment to take care of everything. He lifts his mask, revealing himself as Dak and Lee, a mercenary from Yongjan village. Shocked by the counteroffer, the man stutters twice, but seeing the violent goblins, he agrees to pay. He demands the mercenary hurry up and deal with the monsters. The contract established verbally, Diajin jumps off to eliminate the goblins. He reflects that people often question how he can put a price on saving lives. But the answer is simple. He just loves money. He delivers a powerful blow to the enemies. Suddenly, something large and purple appears and strikes him off guard, launching him backward. Frightened, client screams without understanding what is happening. He sees the mercenary was thrown away by a giant lizard-like creature. The customer despairs, questioning why something like this is roaming around. The system identifies the creature as an enraged, long-tailed Komodo. The client screams in panic as he flees, putting everything on Dakin. The mercenary scolds him for running, while the Komodo stands in front of him with killing intent. Diwan knows he is done for. As the monster starts coming forward to devour him, Hero comes in and lands a heavy blow on the creature. Koolu is all fired up for defeating the Komodo. He stands with killing intent as he shouts for the beast to come at him. Meanwhile, at the castle entrance, the mercenaries are busy eliminating monsters. Inside, Jinty gives instructions to fetch supplies and care for the wounded. Soon, he spots the Gramps praying hard for Chelu. Ginty reflects that the grandfather has been praying non-stop since arriving at the castle. Worried about the war, the old man begs a divine being to hear his request and fulfill his desire. Suddenly, an intense light appears as a message warns that the earth goddess Arena is watching him. The old man is surprised. A new message appears, informing him that it was a divine call and that the goddess heard his prayer right away. The notification window reveals that the earth goddess has a question for him. A divine figure then appears questioning if the grandfather will accept this oath. A system promptly explains that upon completing the pact, he will be able to change his class to priest for the goddess of the earth. At the castle gate, orders Echo to fire arrows at the invaders as one of the lizards advances ferociously. A mercenary named Joseph Felton strikes a monster and informs Junon that these creatures are trying to scale the walls. Warning him to stay, Junhwan encourages his companions to hold out until dawn. Suddenly, a lizard man jumps to Sunung, but Junhwan intervenes and lands several strikes to save her. He asks if she is all right, and Shung thanks him while addressing him. As irritated, he retorts that he is no longer in the army. Junhwan then questions what the intelligence squad is doing there. Sun responds that she also received combat training. But in the middle of her speech, an arrow almost hits her. Junon pulls her out of harm's way and criticizes her for being unable to dodge. She stubbornly insists that she wants to be recognized as an equal to Lee. With a skeptical look, he comments that she has only been Nova for a short time. Sun vents her anxiety, stating she will try anything to accelerate her growth. Junon punches her in the head and asks if she wants a tragic end, explaining that as long as the goal is growth, no one is free from anxiety. He shouts that the Ironhead mercenary squad is where such people gather, and everyone there struggles with their own concerns. He believes Lee is the same, so it is better not to rush and stumble by being impatient. He remarks that their leader is likely fighting an even tougher battle. The scene shifts to the nearby village, where Lee releases her mana. The surrounding monsters are caught off guard by the energy wave. Gripping her sword, the girl quickly advances and cuts down several goblins. Meanwhile, Chelu releases his aura and prepares for combat. He lands a powerful punch on the Komodos and asks if they liked his special kick. He then swings his axe and shouts for the monster to take the hit. The creature's tail stops the blow. Our protagonist realizes that it is very strong, but the fight is not over. Mounting the creature, he shouts that this is not enough. However, the blade becomes stuck in the beast's body. Our hero seems confused by the situation. Sheldu realizes his axe is stuck in the bone and recognizes the limits of fighting in the air. The creature then uses its tail to forcefully throw him away. Our boy skids back, noting that a battle axe has a short attack range, and that the swing radius decreases even further in mid-air. He jumps directly back onto the lizard, using the environment to land on its tail, and leap again to reach his weapon. In an instant, our warrior positions himself on the beast. With a confident smile, Chelu reflects that the lunar eclipse has made the enemy strong. He pulls out the axe and lands a powerful blow after jumping high into the air. After defeating it, our protagonist collects the items dropped by the monsters. He receives the Komodo's tail and a troll heart, which possesses a hidden power. Suddenly, a voice asks if he is Chu. Surprised, he asks if Dakin knows him. The man nods, saying he had heard rumors and that seeing him in person is impressive. With a proud look, our hero enjoys the compliment. Seeing the man's injury, Chelu uses his healing pendant. Our boy explains that he used divine power to help, but now the item's charges are depleted. Impressed, Dakin notes that he used the last charge to save him. Our protagonist replies that helping someone hurt is natural. While analyzing the object, he murmurs that the divine power has not disappeared, and it might be possible to recharge it. Dakan thinks Cholu has a big heart, which makes him reflect on his own calculating nature. He thanks him for helping both him and the village. Our hero proudly spawns that saving the weak is no big deal. Moved, Dakan thinks that Chaolu is remarkably humble. He claims he could never have done it alone, and promises to repay him for saving his life. Our protagonist tells him to do as he pleases, as long as he doesn't steal any prey. He then goes straight to Lee, who is still fighting goblins. Later, both of them successfully wipe out the remaining monsters. A message pops up to congratulate the survivors for overcoming the angry monsters, and announces the completion of the lunar eclipse event. Lee is relieved, commenting that the eclipse is finally over. She wonders if Ironhead Castle is safe. Our protagonist says the castle is doing fine. When she questions how he could possibly know that, he admits he doesn't know for sure, but believes. Lee can tell that he was worried about them earlier. Chu proudly says that one can only trust those who they believe have their back. He then praises Lee for being a great help in the battle. Lee looks surprised by the encouragement and expresses her happiness with a flushed face. Our hero nudges her to collect the many status stones. As they gather the colored gems, Lee thinks they are enough to make her a triple ranker. Holding a pile of rocks, our protagonist purrs, becoming a perfect ranker. Lee asks if he is really going to absorb all of them, fearing he might not handle it, but he tells her not to be afraid. A reddish energy travels through Chelu's body. Our boy screams, claiming this challenge will never bring him down. He then appears in a white space where a punching bag materializes for a force measurement test. Our hero faces the bag with a smile. Considering the test advantageous to his abilities, he prepares for the challenge. In reality, our protagonist is an elite athlete who has mastered all martial arts on Earth. After punching the bag, he earns first place strength test, gaining 25 points for the ranker store. This was just the beginning. Moving to the agility test, our boy shows that he can also be fast, once securing the top position. Dodging obstacles with mastery, Chu proves his perception and comes first again. However, the final magic test surprises him. He thinks he is great at everything physical, but has never used magic for anything other than skills. This seems impossible to him. Suddenly, a strange sensation takes over. Chelu looks up as familiar small flying creatures appear, and he smiles as he recognizes them. A long time ago, on a deserted hill within his mental world, a younger version of Cholu trained. Through immense effort, that version began to develop and grow alongside his personal maturity. A small sprout appeared in the once barren landscape, showing signs of life where a complete desert once existed. Our protagonist reflects on the factors that spurred his growth, wondering if it was the departure of a fellow mercenary or perhaps the grueling fight with his grandfather. He considers that forming a new family might have matured him as he evolved through these relationships. Ultimately, to become a great warrior, he must mature from within. To achieve this, Cholu needs to face his own pain. He thinks about the spirits that act as both his friends and enemies, doubting they would ever listen to him. Still, he invites them for a conversation since it has been a long time since their last meeting. Soon, energy emanates from his hand as he feels the power of those spirits. After grasping the concept and noting his lineage as the son of a barbarian and a sorceress, he successfully passes the magic test and earns first place. As usual, a system message appears congratulating our hero for completing all ability tests. The system then prepares him to enter the infinite arena. Surprised, Chelu questions if this place is truly an arena. A notification regarding the hero's path appears, stating that this path requires preparation and transforms only the unshackled into true heroes. Determined, our protagonist spreads his hand and states that the answer is obvious. He begins pushing a giant door, revealing a white waiting room inside. Within the infinite arena, Chelu is congratulated on becoming Earth's first channel hero. Excited, he realizes this is the place where he can fight strong warriors infinitely, exactly as he wished. Soon the panel displays options such as the Herald of Strength, Agility, and other attributes. Our boy notices the lack of detailed descriptions and finds it a headache, showing a mischievous smile. He mentions that for moments like this, there is a special Cheolu-style solution. After a random count to decide his path, his finger stops on Herald of Resistance. He declares his choice and the system informs him that the Herald of Resistance is being invoked as a companion for difficulties, capable of being summoned or dismissed freely. A blue flame appears, and observing the light, Chiu comments that the name sounds like a spirit. He tells the flame he is counting on it. Facing the imposing gate, our protagonist wonders if he should check out the arena immediately, but he decides it is best to return later. He notes that there are people waiting for him and says he is going home first. Soon he arrives at the castle. The guards shout, announcing that their lord has returned. Junhuan congratulates the group on their safe. Chu praises him in return and asks how the mercenaries are faring. Fortunately, while there are some injuries, there are no casualties. Our hero regrets that the pendant no longer has any effect, but Junhuan tells him not to worry about the cure. This leaves him confused until an intense light suddenly surrounds a wounded soldier. Now fully healed, the man shows off his restored arm. Sheldu is surprised the man was cured without the pendant and marvels at his grandfather's amazing power. The old man smiles, commenting that he seems to have acquired some new skills himself. Our boy is completely stunned to see his grandfather there. Meanwhile, Gintai shouts for Chelu. The elder excitedly runs toward our protagonist and hugs him tightly, saying he was very worried about his grandson. She asks what happened and inquires about the old man's new clothes. Grandpa asks the boy to congratulate him because he has undergone a class change. A couple of hours earlier, a system message appeared regarding a divine call. As the Earth Goddess heard the old man's prayer, she asks him a question, stating that upon completing an oath, he could change his class to become a priest of the Earth Goddess. Grandpa was surprised by the revelation. Reflecting on his grandson, the elderly man decided he could no longer be a burden to others. With hands pressed together, he agreed to the proposal, vowing to do whatever it takes. The goddess of Earth extended her hand to him, and a notification confirmed his class changed to priest of the Earth God. Raising his ranks, the system announced healing and blessing prayers. Back in the present, Chelu's army drinks together in a tavern. Our hero holds a shiny golden pendant, reflecting that his grandfather's ability not only heals but also recharges the item. He thanks the old man as these new powers have healed many injured people. Grandpa explains that the skill is actually for agriculture intended to help crops grow well. With a smile, Jolu comments that his grandfather can now dedicate himself to farming as much as he wants. Ginta brings more encouraging news, noting that a previously locked building is now activated. He explains that if they find the right people, other buildings will also unlock. Therefore, he plans to look for newcomers with special talents. Our protagonist suggests the priority should be finding a blacksmith to activate the corresponding building. Jinte mentions that many weapons were damaged in battle and already has a perfect candidate in mind. Chelu seems suspicious of the suggestion, but it turns out both men are thinking of the same person. Our hero praises Ginte for his hard work, though Ginte credits the success to the elder. Internally, our boy reflects that he originally hoped for his grandfather to have a peaceful farming life, and he now hopes this new responsibility isn't too much for him. A mercenary thanks the elder for the cure while offering him a new dish. It appears the elderly man is adapting well. Chelu admits to himself that having his whole family together feels good. He invites everyone to raise their mugs for a toast to celebrate their hard work. The other men join in, celebrating their victory, shouting for their leader to live a long life. Later, General Park laughs and points out those who helped Yongjeon village. Our protagonist confirms that things simply happened that way. Park considers them reliable, and the general explains that the village was created by the Yongjeon group. He mentions that companies are investing in new developments and expects they will encounter more villages like it during their exploration. The general thanks Chelu for his help, but our hero wonders why he should be grateful since they are not even from Hanyang. Laughing, the old man replies that while they may not be from Hanyang, they are still citizens and humans. Our boy feels grateful that the general sent reinforcements which ensured the castle took less damage. The old man notices the boy's sincerity and feels moved. Chelu realizes how different it feels to give help versus receiving it. Because of this, he communicates something important. He decides to help the general eliminate a field boss. This boss, the Guardian Stone Giant, appears and looks incredibly strong. At the boss spawning area, Lee and Shilu stand against a horde of orc miners. Our protagonist is visibly excited, shouting to Lee that they are embarking on a joint hunt. The girl, however, does not share his enthusiasm for hunting a field boss with only the two of them. Lee quickly strikes down two orcs appearing behind them, while complaining that this plan is far too reckless. Rewinding to an earlier moment, the general is shocked and asks if they truly intend to go alone. When questioned, Lee confirms they are departing with their mercenaries, but Shu insists that only the two of them will go. He mentions that they have finally become strong enough to defeat such foes. Back in the present, Lee remains doubtful, asking how they will manage so many monsters when the remaining attack time is only 32 minutes. Suddenly, our boy begins riding away. Lee asks where he is going since they are already late, but Cholu tells her to follow him because he has a good idea. She wonders what he is thinking as the monster count continues to rise. Still confused, she asks if our hero has any special plans. After riding a short distance, Chelu stops and declares this is the spot. Surprised, Lee asks why he halted there and what they will do about the monsters chasing them. Our protagonist informs her that from this point forward, she will fight alone. Shocked by the revelation, Lee struggles to understand his logic. He explains that the strategy requires her to put forth an extreme effort. Lee then realizes that Chelu has successfully attracted every ogre in the vicinity. Our boy notes there is no other way if they want to finish in time. Laughing, our hero shows her the healing pendant, pointing out that even a broken arm is not a problem because they can cure it. Lee considers him completely crazy. He then decides to move ahead to take down the boss. Arriving at his destination, Chelu approaches the objective. A system message appears, informing him that the Tree of Protection will cause a guardian to appear to test his worth. Soon after, the ground shakes, and a massive golem made of stone emerges from the earth. This is the field boss. Our protagonist comments that the creature is just a big pile of rocks that only knows how to throw punches. He considers this a fist fight, so it matters little to him if the opponent is made of stone or iron. The stone giant advances quickly. Our boy jumps high into the air as the fists collide, and he notices that each of the giant's punches is incredibly heavy. Despite the opponent's strength, Chow claims the situation is still manageable. Another exchange of punches takes place. Soon, our hero begins using magical abilities while striking, He states that he no longer fights with just brute force. With that said, he lands a powerful punch on the stone giant, causing a massive impact. A flashback appears within his internal realm. Our protagonist asks if all the spirits are present. He bows and apologizes for everything, acknowledging that the spirits have suffered unjustly due to his trauma. The spirits approach him and show affection. Observing the creatures, Chelu realizes they have been waiting for him this entire time. He resolves never to abandon them again, deciding that from now on they will fight side by side. Back in the present, he reflects that of the 5 spirits. These are the least relevant to his fighting style. Yet he never imagined creating such synergy with them. Surrounded by stone fists, our hero wants the spirits to synchronize even better this time. The stone giant attacks once more. Dodging with a smile, our boy provokes the giant by asking if it is cold. The stone monster prepares a devastating blow. With a kick, Chelu dodges the attack, but complains that using weapons in a fistfight is cheating. However, the giant's blow hits hard, throwing our protagonist far away. Surprised by the force, he complains about the situation as the giant approaches. Without time to react, he is hit squarely by a massive stone arm. The impact is so strong that it raises a massive cloud of dust. Falling to the ground with a smile, our hero remarks that a club is a bit much. Even though he is invincible, it still hurts. Reminding himself to focus, Chelu gets up and jumps toward the stone monster, shouting that it is time to end the fight. Using the powers of the spirits, our boy creates stone pillars to propel himself into the air. He approaches the giant, promising to give it an even better experience. Grabbing the monster's head, our protagonist decides to adjust its spine. Once the task is finished, a system message informs him that the stone golem guardian has been defeated. He acquires a new item, the stone giant club. Our hero finds it to be the perfect weapon. The protection tree evolves into the guardian tree, and the region receives a benefit where token donations expand the protected area. Satisfied, Chelu celebrates another successfully completed mission. System messages continue, informing him that Area C6114 is recognized as a new territory, and new residents will be accepted. Additionally, the protective fog is lifted. Back in the Korean government office, a man informs the president that the Cheongju portal has opened. They need to quickly approve a new special law. The president considers promoting Nova to city status and electing a mayor to govern. The opposition leader argues that the current military government is an outdated form of oppression. While another man sees the logic, he believes the timing is wrong. They argue that Nova is practically in a state of war, making the military necessary for public safety. They do not call for a withdrawal, but rather aim to avoid an administrative collapse. The president counters, noting that Nova, connected to Po and Yosu, has already been claimed by corporations. If they elect a mayor, it is natural that a corporate figure will take control. The president warns that corporations will monopolize everything, and this is not a decision to be taken lightly. Delivering an emergency report from Neo-Seoul, a man asks what the president will do, suggesting the situation is proof of military incompetence. A few days ago in Neo-Seoul, a luxurious Western-style carriage arrived at the scene, attracting significant attention. The general wonders what it is and why it has appeared there. New guards surround the carriage, ordering it to stop. A lieutenant demands that they move the vehicle immediately. From the carriage, a beautiful elf named Rtea steps outside. She mutters in her own language that humans are very shameless. The lieutenant does not understand her, so she points her blade at him. She declares in her native tongue that the Empire has arrived and they will take over this land. The president is informed that Colonel Juni Park was taken by an alien race, an event that proves the military's incompetence. He understands the advisor's underlying point. Had a congressman been elected, the situation might be different. The advisor confirms that such an official would have avoided their clumsy handling. Placing his hand on the table, the president states that it would not have been different. He explains that they are dealing with aliens, and it is questionable whether common sense even applies. The man then asks how the president plans to resolve this, and whether the military has the necessary capability. With a confident smile, the president says that in times of war, answers are found by those on the front lines. He adds that he has the right man for this in mind, Lieutenant General Park Junpil, the second in command of the Nova Army. The president says he will send the right person for the job. Back on the battlefield, our protagonist and Lee watch the spirits collecting stones and coins. Chelu laughs, noting that the giant was quite useful. Lee asks the captain why he is laughing like that, and our hero replies that this was how his father used to laugh. Lee asks with surprise if he really looked up to his father. Curious, she asks what kind of person he was, and our protagonist responds that he was a great warrior. Lee asks if he means a martial artist, but Cholu corrects her, clarifying that he was a warrior. When he evades her further questions, she says it is okay if he does not want to talk. Suddenly, a glowing portal appears. From the portal emerges a goblin merchant who cheerfully says he has been coming to Earth frequently lately. Our hero asks him to show his clothes right away. The goblin finds the customer impatient and tells him to take a good look as several item windows appear. One window shows the list of items from the Guardian Tree Goblin Shop along with a new item, the World Map Enhancement. Our protagonist wonders if it is a new product. Without hesitation, he decides to buy the World Map upgrade immediately and activates the newly acquired map. A large holographic map appears before them, much larger than before. Chelu points to an area already revealed on the map and asks why it is visible. Lee suggests that maybe it is a place they have been before. Our hero does not think he has been that far and a notifications area C442. Surprised, he exclaims that it is Neo Soul. Lee excitedly points out that they have discovered a route to the city. Our protagonist notes that it seems quite far away as there are 3 maps between them. Lai Young comments that even so, the fact that they are physically connected is an incredible discovery. Furthermore, they have accomplished something new as a pioneer in Nova. Meanwhile, the goblin merchant smiles mischievously and mutters that he is getting closer now. As the two walk away, the goblin notes that Earth is not far away now. Elsewhere, Lieutenant General Park stands in front of a portal and calls out to Chelu. Our hero greets him. Park notices that he has already defeated a field boss and calls him impatient. Our protagonist replies that Park seems to be in more of a hurry. Park explains he is on his way to Seoul for urgent business. He reveals there is news of alien groups appearing near Neo Seoul, leaving Chelu surprised. Our hero thinks there may be other barbarians like him. The general explains that these may be the aliens that arrived after the regions collapsed. Park tells him to leave the celebration for later as he has to leave. Chelu holds him back, asking how he can say that about such an important matter, and asks to be taken along. Our protagonist argues that a soldier to escort the delegation certainly would not hurt. The scene cuts to the Pooh Hotel on Earth. In a luxurious room, our hero in a bathrobe meets number 5 and her sibling, asking if they arrived early. Number 1 nods and asks how he likes the hotel. Keolu says he likes it and mentions that the Nova portal is nearby. Then he asks number 5 why she is always with him and if she has a job. The smiling woman responds that driving is her job, and a driver is essential for the president. Our protagonist asks if preparations for the relocation of the mercenary families have been completed. Number 1 confirms that it is proceeding in stages. He explains that in the case of Director Choi's parents, they are buying the entire hospital to handle the situation specially. Our hero is shocked by the news. Number 1 apologizes, thinking it is too much, but Chelu reassures him that it is exactly the kind of action he likes. Our protagonist advises him not to forget his roots just because he is there, and tells him to come to Nova once things settle down. Number 1 agrees and notices his phone vibrating. He hands it over to Kialdu, saying it is a call from Lieutenant General Park. Later on a rainy night, Park greets Chelu, who has just arrived, and apologizes for calling him so late. Our hero says that everything is fine and asks if anything has been decided about him being part of the delegation. Park replies that nothing is settled yet, but they wanted to see him in person, so they called him there. Park asks Chelu to restrain himself today because he knows the captain likes to play around. Our protagonist asks why. As the doors open, Park reveals that the person he is about to meet is the head of the Republic of Korea, President Kim Song. Stepping inside, Park and Shu approach the president, who says they have finally met. President Kim extends his hand and says it is an honor to meet the man of the hour. Park watches nervously as our hero remains silent. The two shake hands and Chelu says the honor is his as well. He then introduces himself as Kang Chu, captain of the mercenary group. Park is surprised by his formality. The president says he called him because it is time to establish a clear stance on alien groups, noting that he needs both of their perspectives. The issue is that in Neo Seoul, Lieutenant Kim has been taken hostage. Chelu repeats the word hostage and asks if Kim is important. The president says yes, because every citizen of the Republic of Korea is important. With a serious look, the president continues saying that taking a hostage is a clear provocation. He asks if our hero does not already know the answer. Our protagonist explains that although it is a provocation, they cannot rush into a fight. The fact that they have taken a hostage means there is room for dialogue. In conclusion, there is only one answer. It's need to understand the aliens' true intentions through dialogue. The president smiles and says he is glad they are on the same page. Then he asks what will happen if they do not want peace. Our hero states that they will then have to show their determination. Chelu asks for permission to go with General Park. The president laughs, saying that they think alike again and believes he can entrust this important task to him. With a smile, the president asks how our protagonist knew about his decision. Chelu confidently says that, of course he knew. explaining that he simply imagined the mindset of a chief protecting his tribe. Park watches the exchange, wondering if he has ever seen our hero acting so maturely, because usually Chelu talks about starting by opening the heads of his enemies. In a vast landscape, Childu comments that it is his first time crossing the border. As they ride along, General Park mentions that the climate remains the same across the boundary, though our protagonist wonders if they are even on the right path. Park explains that the Imperial forces went this way, so he believed they should follow. After days of marching, Chelu notes they have found nothing. Park regrets his inability to communicate with the foreigners in this land. Panting, the general praises Kaolu for not appearing tired. Yet in reality, our boy is completely exhausted with dark circles under his eyes. When Park asks why he refuses to sleep, Cholu explains he is there as a bodyguard to protect him. Grateful, the general urges him to rest, but our hero refuses. He cannot rest while he's sensed these aliens may actually be barbarians. Suddenly, the general halts his horse as he spots something ahead. Chelu smiles, noting that the view before them is familiar. A huge fortress stands there, looking much like Ironhead Castle. On the walls, several guards patrol with spears. The two men stand still, observing the scene, and Park comments on the heavy atmosphere. However, our warrior is shocked to recognize the emblem stamped on the castle's flag. That banner belongs to the Imperial people, who built enormous wealth through trade and used their brilliant minds to accumulate power. Known for being focused on profitable transactions, these people are viewed by Chu as arrogant individuals who try to possess everything with money. Despite this, they welcome barbarians primarily because whenever food becomes scarce, they serve as perfect targets for stealing supplies. Inside, a luxurious scene unfolds within a peaceful atmosphere. Lieutenant Kim is pampered by two girls, laughing as they feed him delicious food. One girl smiles and offers him another morsel. Kim considers this a good life, even though he doesn't understand the language. He views the place as a true paradise. Hugging the women, he justifies his presence by claiming he did not betray his country, as anyone would do the same against such powerful aliens. His expression shifts instantly when Artia appears. She questions him about the humans who have just arrived, asking if he knows them. Scared and sensing her anger, Kim offers to tell her everything as long as he isn't hurt. Artea simply points at him, causing the man to shrink back in fear. She then uses magic on his eyes, which glow purple, and commands him to look. In his mind, Kim sees images of the general and our protagonist. As the elf questions him, Kim identifies General Park Junil. When she asks about the other man, he shouts Chella's name. The spell breaks, leaving the elf surprised by his reaction. Desperately, Kim screams that he is screwed. Fearing they have come for him because of betrayal, he thinks that even against the Empire, Chu can take care of them. Artea states she has brought something useless, and suddenly the man is struck by a fatal blow. In the name of the Empire, she sentences him to death. Outside, our hero never expected to see that insignia and wonders if he can find information regarding the barbarians. The general shouts toward the castle, stating they are sent from Neo-Sol. Retrieve their person and wish to talk. A guard shouts back something incomprehensible. As the gate opens, Park excitedly suggests they go in to speak with the people. However, Chelu stops him and summons his axe, leaving the general stunned. Our warrior explains that the gates did not open to welcome them. The occupants have no intention of talking. Surprised, Park asks if he understood the shout. Chelu activates a search skill, revealing the guard is named Goron, an Imperial Knight with level 3 swordsmanship. Chelu is surprised to find this level is higher than that of Count Ryan, whom he fought earlier. He wonders about the true strength of the Empire, calling them pathetic fools. The knight declares that our hero has made his final decision. Goron attacks to turn their territory into a desert, but Sheldu defends the blow with his axe. As the weapons clash, warrior questions who decided their land would be trampled, appearing entirely unintimidated. Goron asks how a human understands his language, but our hero simply demands return of his people, declaring that he cannot leave a translator alive. Gorian advances with a series of quick blows. Chelu barely manages to block. The knight leaps into the air, calling Chaolu's challenge ridiculous. In response, Chao flashes an evil smile and calls the Imperials fools. This confuses the knight, who then detects a barbaric scent coming from our boy. The warriors collide again with a force that creates a massive shockwave. To the knight's surprise, our hero stops the blade easily. Chelu notices the weight of his axe has shifted and realizes something has changed. A notification informs our protagonist that he has mastered the axe, increasing proficiency to level 3. Attacks again, but Chao defends every strike. Impact throws the knight back, leaving him shocked by our boy's strength. When Chaolu counters, the knight tries to defend, but his sword breaks in the process to the ground. Gorian calls him a barbarian, while Chao notes the outcome is already decided. With a fierce look, our warrior raises his axe to end the knight's life. At the last second, Park screams for him to stop, explaining that killing the knight will provoke a war. He begs for patience, though Chelu retorts that the knight attacked first. The general continues to insist they don't need to go that far. Suddenly, a smiling figure appears on a balcony, seemingly enjoying the situation. The two look up to see Carrie and Vorda, Baron of the Empire. He announces his wish to invite them in and tells them to approach. Chelu states they are finally being invited inside. The general comments that our hero's strength was the key to opening the door to dialogue. Our protagonist agrees, noting they will finally enter the enemy lair. Guards escort Chu and General Park into a luxurious hall. When Park asks how he understands the local language, Lu explains he learned it during his youth, due to its similarity to his mother tongue. The general notes it is fortunate that he is bilingual as they continue walking. Suddenly a maid speaks in her native tongue and offers them a box containing 2 bright blue potion bottles. As General Park wonders about the contents, Chelu identifies them as communication potions. The general remains suspicious, fearing poison and mentioning his hunger, but our protagonist decides to drink immediately without worrying about potential danger. He finishes the bottle in one go, prompting the general to follow suit. Soon after, the pair arrives at a massive garden featuring a great banquet. Baron Kalan welcomes the Earthlings and introduces himself formally, leading General Park and Chu to provide their own introductions. The general realizes he can no longer understand the local language without help. The Baron invites them to chat and enjoy the feast. Excited by the spread, our hero remarks that he and the Baron might actually get along well. While eating, Cholu internally praises the Imperial food, which the general also finds enjoyable. The Baron eventually interrupts the meal to ask why they requested this meeting. General Park stops eating to begin negotiations, correcting the Baron by stating it was the Imperials who initiated the conversation. Baron Kalan laughs mockingly, leaving the general visibly irritated. With his mouth full, our protagonist says the laughter is annoying, but the general calms him down and insists on leading the discussion. Park explains they are there to negotiate because they believe there is a specific reason for the colonel's kidnapping. Wearing a mocking expression, the young Baron questions if they truly came to talk and reveals he only ever demanded submission. This news leaves General Park completely shocked. Baron Kalan mocks their expectation of a negotiation, stating there is nothing to discuss without a fair exchange. He reveals he has already extracted all necessary information from the colonel, whom he describes as weak and worthless. Standing from the table with a determined look, the Baron claims he changed his mind after seeing such a strong warrior among the Earthlings. He proposes that to avoid a disaster for their village, Cholu must be handed over as payment. Outraged, the general bangs on the table and shouts that human beings are not commodities. He demands the immediate return of the colonel, but the Baron coldly reveals the colonel is no longer alive. They eliminated him for being useless. As the general grits his teeth in rage and tells Chelu not to hold back, our warrior remains focused on his meal, shouting that the food is delicious. The Baron promises to serve this food every day if Chelu swears complete loyalty to him. Our hero argues it would be rude to leave without eating after all the effort put into the meal. He then destroys the entire table, shouting that one can eat even at a funeral. The Baron jumps back laughing, finding the warrior's attitude amusing and comparing him to a human barbarian. Kolu vows to fix the Baron's attitude, but Artea suddenly appears and threatens the droll with a sword. Our protagonist is surprised by her speed and takes a closer look at her slender body and large ears. Chao recognizes her as a member of the fairy folk, the sworn enemies of the barbarians. The Baron provokes him by asking if he has fallen for his servant's beauty. The general Chelu, hoping his companion will act rationally. Picking up a fork, our boy comments that taking hostages seems to be their specialty. He decides to ignore rational thought and act on impulse, throwing the fork with increased force and speed using his ability. Artea notices the rapid attack and her eyes widen. She quickly pushes the hostage aside and deflects the projectile with her blade. Our warrior advances furiously, accusing the fairy of using the same disgusting tricks her race always employs. Their weapons collide with tremendous force. Artea asks if he holds a grudge against her people as they exchange another powerful blow. Chelu feels a familiar sensation from his opponent and promises to make her pay for hurting his friend. Arta challenges him to try his luck. The two exchange a series of rapid blows. In the blink of an eye, Chelu dodges an attack that brushes past him, but a follow-up strike hits our hero and leaves a cut on his back. Artea considers the source of a barbarian's strength the coming-of-age ritual mark that inherits ancestral spirits. But she notices Kaolu lacks the traditional red tattoos. Despite the injury, our protagonist heals his wounds using a golem regeneration ability. Artea believes a barbarian's true strength is only released when anger is controlled by a strong spirit. Our boy decides to fight with everything he has, and Artea prepares to use her full force in return. As they advance, Artea mentions she has fought mana-infused swords before and asks if he understands her meaning. As her blade begins to shine, with a smile, Chelu responds that he can do something similar. He draws the long sword of the Steel Knight, causing spirits to gather around him. Our protagonist suggests they enjoy a bonfire, leaving Artea speechless and confused as to why the spirits are congregating around him. Yahello lashes out at Artea with a series of powerful strikes, yet his opponent dodges them without breaking a sweat. Our protagonist unleashes his full strength, but the fairy gracefully sidesteps as the intensity of the fight climbs. During a sharp counterattack, Artea almost lands a hit on our boy, who barely manages to retreat in time. Watching the exchange from a distance, the young Baron is blown away by the Barbarian's sheer strength and decides to flee while the two are distracted by combat. Fortunately, the general spots the movement and dashes toward him. Meanwhile, Yahello's sword-fighting technique has maximized the power of his blade through the use of magic. He believes this is the perfect time to test such an ability, since he is up against a foe well-versed in the mystic arts. Frustrated by his prowess, Artea asks how he can possibly use spirits. She dashes forward to land another attack. Our hero dodges the question by asking how she is capable of her own feats, causing her to click her tongue in annoyance at the lack of a proper answer. She remarks that he does not even possess a barbarian tattoo. Yahello reflects that since he grew up on Earth without being trained like a traditional warrior, it is natural that he lacks such markings. Regardless, he has trained relentlessly to become a great warrior and refuses to lose this encounter. He strikes her with his magic blade just as she retaliates with her own spells. The protagonist remarks that she is employing complex magic before calling upon his spirits to stay strong with him. As all four of his spirits merge into his body, Artea feels a sudden chill. She sees four powerful dragons surging toward her, their force shattering her defensive shield. Our hero jumps toward her to land a heavy blow, declaring that regardless of what she thinks, he is indeed a barbarian. After landing the strike, he asks if there is anyone present from Valhalla. Coughing from the impact, she shakes her head and mentions that barbarians cannot be tamed. She asks why he chooses not to kill her, to which she replies that killing a sworn enemy would change nothing. Internally, Artea knows that the people who killed his parents were actually fellow barbarians. Furthermore, the one who truly deserves to die is the Baron. That young noble is now tied up and kneeling on the ground. The general informs our boy that the man tried to run away but was caught. Now desperate, the Baron admits he underestimated humans and offers a chance to negotiate. Yahello coldly calls him arrogant, reminding him that negotiations only work when one has something to offer. With that, he finishes off the Baron. The general feels a brief flash of regret for not being able to save the colonel, but our protagonist reminds him that the man was a traitor. The general lets out a laugh and calls Chu a robot before remarking that the last battle was incredible. Our hero proudly asks if he served as a good bodyguard. Pleased, Park remarks that he single-handedly stopped the war by defeating their enemies, and suggests they return to Neo-Sol. However, they suddenly notice Artea dispersing into the air just like Baron Call. Soon the castle begins to shake, collapsing, now that its lord has vanished. Both men flee the structure as quickly as possible before it totally crumbles. It feels odd to the general that the people disappeared along with their lord and the fortress. Unexpectedly, a group of Kallian castle employees arrive and reveal that those who vanished had signed a vassal contract. Yahello is stunned to see these survivors alive. A maid among them explains they were low-level commoners and were not privileged enough to sign such a contract. She thanks him for allowing them to escape that place. The group bows, requesting that he become their new master. Since he eliminated the Baron, the maid states that he is the rightful person to lead them. After a brief pause, he asks the general if it would be difficult to take these people to Neo-Sol. The general explains that the language barrier is just one of many hurdles. More problems could arise, including the risk that the government might demand the survivors become test subjects. Our boy asks if that would happen to him as well. His true identity were known. He decides to reveal the truth, tell Park that he is actually a barbarian. Initially shocked, the general admits he had suspected these origins for a while, especially during this journey. He promises not to use Chow for research, affirming that he sees him as a friend. Satisfied with the statement, the protagonist feels more secure. He decides to take the maid and her group to Ironhead Castle to be their new home. General Park points out that using the portal is not an option, and they will need a new route. Yahello reveals he has already found a path connecting Neo-Sol with Hanyang. Surprised, the general praises him for this wonderful discovery. Our hero remarks that it will be a long journey, but he now has even more reasons to explore the world of Nov. He reflects on the fact that barbarians do exist in Nova after all, and the path to becoming a true warrior lies within this land. He promises himself to train his mercenaries and himself until they have explored every corner of Nova. The link to the next episode should be appearing on your screen. Just click on it and you can watch it.